A word to the wise, we are an explicit podcast tackling content with adult themes, as well as entering spoiler territory if you aren't caught up with us. This week, that would be through chapter 49 of Jade City by Fonda Lee. Hey there, this is Cross.
And I'm PJ.
And I'm Ben.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Thomas.
And we are Words and Whiskey, a podcast for veteran and novice readers alike. We tackle fiction novels and love to talk about what we're drinking. You should think of us as your intoxicating weekly book club.
I just want to jump in and say this is a very good-looking Discord, video chat. Everybody that I'm looking at looks very, very good.
You mean us?
And that's all I'll say
is it
about
high
that.
quality, or what do you?
We're mostly looking at Aaron and I. Yeah.
Yeah,
we're hot
Yeah.
people.
Not
I
you,
haven't
Ben.
shaved. I'm getting a haircut tomorrow. I'm in utter slacker mode right now.
Oh, I'm not even wearing my cool glasses. There we go.
Now we're at
there we go.
Yeah.
now we're truly the epitome of
My
cool.
blue light blockers. You know, blue light blockers are good for dark circles.
Is
Word
that
to the wise. Protect
true?
your eyes.
Are dark circles what you use to summon demons?
Me for
Okay.
This
I
and
don't know
more.
what dark
It's
circles are for.
under your eyeballs.
under your eyes when you're tired.
I know, but what do you
You
use
currently
them
have
for?
some. You're fired, my friend.
I was
And
trying to
today
make a joke,
is
I'm
our
sorry.
6th episode.
Number
where
6.
we'll be chatting about chapters 42 through 49. It's the penultimate episode of this book.
Okay, when I was
Wow. Good
holding
job
it,
by
I was
us.
like, should I just keep going? There's not that much left.
It did.
Yeah.
It did feel like
Yeah,
that.
we're
I feel like
We're
I
here.
could just keep going.
we're right at the end. So, but before we go too much further, let's talk about our featured cocktail. Aaron, you came at another one with us. Explain your drink.
Week 2, back to back. You're welcome, Ben. You're pulling the weight.
You're incredible.
Thank you. We named this one Barrow's Staycation because he has a little trip to a nearby island hanging out. And it is a frozen pineapple gin cocktail. And we have a little pineapple garnish here. It's 3 cups pineapple pieces frozen, 6 ounces gin, 2 ounces simple syrup. But I added an extra ounce because I didn't think it was sweet enough. So 3 ounces simple syrup, 1 ounce fresh lime juice, 1 ounce pineapple juice, and then blend that all up. Add 2 cups ice. Keep blending. You have a creamy, pineapple-y gin drink.
It's lovely. How many drinks does that make? 2? 3?
That was 4 servings.
4 servings.
But
Okay.
for us, it was 3
1
drinks.
serving.
1 serving. No,
serving.
and John, my husband, helped me cut the pineapple because I was like, I don't think I've ever cut a pineapple before. So then he also got one.
It's extremely refreshing.
It's refreshing and it's really not sweet at all. I think because the pineapple juice I had was unsweetened and then the pineapple pieces also obviously weren't sweetened. So
I just love pineapple.
even with the
Yep.
extra ounce of simple syrup that I added, it's still I don't know, not herby, but the gin kind of tamps down on the sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been really into gin. COVID for me was tequila the whole time. And now I've transitioned finally from tequila into gin.
Wow.
Thanks to the Game of Thrones House of Dragon ladies. They're the ones who got me into gin.
Negroni.
Spagliato.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Except without the Spagliato.
I know. I just normal Negroni. If you said
Right,
Spagliato,
right.
the crazy thing is no one knows what I'm talking about when I bring up that video. I'm like,
That was a big deal.
I know. I'm like, is my FYP just totally nerded out and normal people in the world don't see what I see?
No, I think that was a big.
I often have that kind of feeling, and that's one of those things. PJ, did you see the interview? It was a brief clip from the interview where they were talking about their favorite cocktails, the 2 leads from House of Dragon.
Nope.
Allison
Also, I don't know what
and,
FYP means.
For you page.
For you page. It's on TikTok specifically.
Oh.
We don't have TikTok
Then
because we
absolutely not.
actively, but
Or your Instagram, whatever Instagram feeds you.
Instagram Reels. Yeah, it was on YouTube too. It was like all over the place, that
Had
interview.
some
It
crossover,
was pushed at me
it was
very
a meme.
aggressively. So
I saw
I
it
did not
47
see it.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also liked it.
I also
every
saw
time
so
I
many-
saw it.
so many other
I think
cocktail
we're
pages
on
that we follow, PJ, on Instagram remade those cocktails. So even if you didn't see the interview, you probably saw those cocktails on the page. You go on our Instagram as much as I do. Don't
Look
PJ
through
is
it.
busy living life. Okay, he doesn't have time to be on the social media.
He's making terrariums for his girlfriend.
Guy, he got 2 degrees in science. He's busy.
It's fair. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Thomas, what are you having? Because Ben's having the same thing, of course,
That is correct.
unless you doctored yours.
I
And
kinda
he's really enjoying
accidentally
it.
made a rum sour. It's just like a pineapple rum that I will not drop the brand for, but PJ knows it. Fuck ton of lemon juice, some simple syrup, and a little bit of tonic because I like bubbles in my cocktail.
Nice. I'm going to ask for you to drop the pineapple rum brand because there aren't that many good ones, and I don't think a lot of people know the good ones.
No free ads, sorry. Can't
It's
do it.
plantation.
No free ads.
It's plantation.
You can do it.
That's
Yeah.
fine. I think supporting good alcohol makes sense because they,
You guys
I don't
can,
know.
yeah.
Captain
Plantation's
Morgan.
pineapple
Good.
rum is really, really,
Yeah.
really good.
It is. Because it's not pineapple
Bacardi.
flavored. They soak it in pineapple and then like strain
Yeah.
it and then, I don't know, age it in a
It's super good.
pineapple wood barrel.
As opposed to like Malibu,
Yeah.
right? Which is just like
Malibu's like
drinking
coconut
coconut
flavored.
suntan lotion.
No,
Yeah.
Malibu tastes like tanning lotion.
Yeah.
Tanning lotion tastes like Malibu.
It's just too coconutty.
Which
And
one
like-
came first? Tanning lotion or Malibu?
Probably
Malibu.
sunscreen. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
It'd be worth looking
PJ.
up.
So I am not entirely positive what's in this cocktail because Kaylin made it for me. But it is a margarita and it has Thai basil. That's what I know.
Um,
It's really good.
That sounds good.
How's the Thai basil hit?
Is it Herbie?
It's just like basil-y, but not like as sharp. I don't know the best way to describe it. A little bit more herbal than like what you'd expect basil to be. Like you expect it to be a little bit more like punchy and sweet. And this kind of gets that sort of pepper side note to it. But following that up, I have a Pot of Gold. It is I think coffee and vanilla imperial stout from Great Notion.
Yes,
So-
Ben and I will be following our fancy drinks with Bud Lights.
Classic.
nice.
Very nice.
Excellent. Winners. Cool. PJ, I am also having a margarita. I'm having a grapefruit margarita, though, and it is delicious. I doctored it with a little bit of Campari just because I wanted it to be like a little bit more bitter than the grapefruit was giving me. And I really want to try acid-adjusted grapefruit juice, so I think that's in the future
Oh, so it's less
for me.
bitey.
More
Well, it's
bitey.
actually, it wasn't actually
Really?
bitey enough. That was my problem. This grapefruit was really mellow. Like it drank more like, I even tried some separately and it drank closer like grapefruit flavored orange juice. So I was just like, how do I fix this? And because it wasn't grapefruity enough. So yeah, for most people, they probably would have been like, oh, that's the best grapefruit margarita I had. And I'm like, no, I want like a little bit of mouth pucker. Like I want a little bit of the cheeks
Sure.
going.
Wake yet.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. So, before we talk about the chapters, what do our newbies think of this week's reading, this penultimate week?
Well, I think it was really cool that Lon came back to life and we had that whole
It was
vibe.
a dream sequence. It was all a dream. I had a lot of adrenaline. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah.
With Hilo.
Yeah, this was a good like
Mhm.
action packed without the actual action section.
Mata is scary,
He is terrifying.
Yeah.
but like in a hot way.
Like that. But
I like strong women.
I respect that.
Would she be
I
on your
really
For You
liked-
page?
The
Yeah, my
FYP, thank you.
My after dark FYP.
I really liked the conversation or the interaction of Shay and Wen. I like that they're both getting a little bit more like verbal page time, which is great.
I'm very glad Wen is now more than a vessel.
That was probably my favorite part of the whole situation.
Also, Shay got knocked down again. She was going up. And she took a step back. She's like pulling her ear and like, oh, I guess Hilo has better taste than I thought. Just all the prejudice involved with Shay and her whole family. It's crazy.
There's a lot of interesting things that come up in this week from a perspective. There are a couple of things that I thought happened later in the book and a couple of things that I thought happened earlier. And I did genuinely believe that the white rat conversation happened much earlier than it did. But I think I'm just blurring Jade City and Jade War together. I've got like entire other perspectives on things that I thought happened in this book, but don't happen until the next book. So it's great. Very excited.
Is that a foreshadowing about when?
No. I just thought, I genuinely thought this happened earlier in this book.
Right.
But I think it's because I read those books so close together and then I had to wait for Legacy. So
I also like seeing when like do a mission, you know, or the start of a mission.
Those were my two favorite chapters. Yeah. Where she's like, I want a job. And then.
Ooh, I also like seeing.
Did the job.
Make Tar be like a thug. That was scary. It was fun to re-listen. I read it and then I listened. So it's fun to go back and know who it was that Tenben was like seeing, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good spot to jump into the chapters and talk about that, because that is where we start this week. So with that, chapter 42, Old White Rat. We finally meet Tenben, a stone eye, of whom replaced our previous known quantity of an illicit jade broker, brokering a deal over a discarded Talon knife. A couple of minutes later, he's attacked by Niktar and accused of being a white rat. Of course, ultimately, we know his fate, but this is his first and last appearance on screen. So it appears. But talk about an intimidating moment. I mean, there's the intro with the actual trading of the jade and kind of underselling because of a war and the frequency there. But that moment when Miktar bursts through the walls feels like something ripped straight out of an 80s action movie in the best way.
Or maybe a Hong Kong
I don't
movie.
know that I've seen any 80s action movies.
What?
Which one's an 80s one?
Just pick a
I
movie.
mean, like Predator?
Ah, yeah. Is
Die
that
Hard?
90s? Die Hard?
No.
Still haven't seen it.
I haven't seen Die Hard.
All right.
I was
Let's pick
going
up
to watch it
Big
for
Trouble
tomorrow.
count?
Christmas.
Big Trouble is in 80.
Yeah, I
Big
think it's like
Trouble absolutely
89.
counts.
Yeah, challenge.
I think it's 80s, isn't it?
It's definitely 80s.
Yeah, I think it's like in
Princess Bride.
1989 or
Just
something.
86.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
It was just so wise that it seemed to be the end of that era instead of in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was him reaching through and breaking his wrist like a chicken wing. Blech.
Twist and pop. I can't remember if it was in this chapter or if it was in a later chapter where they described like breaking like a chicken wing. Was it this chapter?
That was this
where it's
one.
Described? Okay, that was his arm. For some reason, I thought it was later. A later picture also elicited the same image, and so my brain got the dual flashy reminder of like, oh, this person's eating a chicken wing, and that's gross.
Maybe we get more arms broken like chicken wings. It is also,
expect.
it was cool to see from Tenben's perspective, like going up against a Greenbone and you have like the best gun that you could ever have and you're still just totally fucked. Like there's no beating them, which is why these outside militaries want to equip their soldiers with this power that's like way better than weapons, you know?
I thought, like, speaking of that, this is obviously talking about later in the chapters, but commenting on how Shay, was it the Espenian guy? Commenting on how Shay had more jade herself than like entire battalions of soldiers.
Yeah.
Or
I thought that line was
squadrons,
interesting as
whatever
well.
term
Yeah.
you used. So, like, clearly it's already to a certain degree implemented into like the military ranks of the foreign armies, but just nowhere close in volume to the amount of jade that these guys have and brutalize people with.
And
Yeah.
I think it's just because she's a call. Like the biggest or the clan leaders probably are decked out with the most jade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we learn from Andon's perspective earlier that, like, I think the practice beads that everyone graduates with are 3 beads of Jade, and then the top of class earns a 4th. And graduation day, you earn technically what would be a 4th or something like that. You practice with very little, and they really don't get a whole lot. You know, it's great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then you kill people.
And then you kill people.
Is that the only other way they get it, right? Or can they buy it?
I don't know.
It's a great question. We don't really get that answer
I think
firmly. Does seem to be some like
family-
inheritance and some other stuff like that. Yeah.
There is
I think war is probably the best way, though.
Yeah, probably for
Mhm.
the greener side of the clan, at least. I think in this section of reading, there's like almost a throwaway line about how there's the graduation coming up and that they have to be able to sort of supply them with Jade. I don't know if that's just like, here's a
In
few
Hilo's
extra,
perspective.
here's a few extra pebbles for you guys so you don't get murdered the second you walk on the street with your 4 little.
Or are those 3 or 4 pieces what they're talking about? Like they have to,
It could be that too, because they could.
or they got them.
I think they
They
get them
got
through
them
the
at
the
graduation
graduation
supplies to
ceremony.
school. It's a question.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
they have enough Jade, though, because it's not like they're desperate for it, because they buried Lon's Jade with him.
Well, that was
I feel
his
like that's
Jade.
more of a respect thing, but yeah.
But
I
if they
agree
were
with
like,
you.
we desperately needing it, I'm sure they wouldn't have.
Would Hilo though?
Yeah, an
Call
act of
Sen is just
desperation would
giving it
definitely
away,
go for that.
apparently.
Yeah,
Oh my fucking god, we're
that
gonna
guy.
get there
Garbage
in a second.
human.
I forgot about that. It's
Yeah.
messed up.
That's a fair point. They're willing to bury it at the very least, and you know it would take an act of desperation, you know, to get at that in the first place. I want to make note of something that I noticed that was very real worldy. The betel nut is a common nut found in India from various palm trees, and is very highly addictive. Or not in India, excuse me, over in Asia, very highly addictive. And most, like a lot of photos where you see sort of the ruined teeth, and they describe like the juice on his lips as like this red juice, the like red brown color. That is actually because of the betel nut, and it is incredibly addictive. And so like he is an addict in a couple of ways, even though he's Abuke, the guy who comes in to sell the knife.
Oh, I was like,
He's addicted to
was
something
eating
else, which is
nuts?
interesting. The guy who comes in to sell the Talon knife to Temben. It was a nice like world building note and real note where I was like, what's a betel nut? And then I looked it up and like looked into the whole thing, and I was like, oh shit, this is like a real great world building detail if you know what's up.
Dang.
So
Don't,
I wonder if that's
don't eat
also
those nuts.
an
I hate
example of
eating
like
nuts.
the Abukai who are really native to the area. Because I mean, the first one we meet
Mhm.
is sort of one who has this addiction to something that's native to our version of that region.
Mhm.
fair point.
Other than Sampa, right?
Poor little
point,
sad. No more bicycle Sampa.
Yeah, Sampa might still be out there.
no more job, Sampa.
No more job, no more bike. Rip Sampa.
I hope Sampa
Poor
kills
Sampa.
Barrow.
Now we're talking.
Just shows
Streets
up.
need it.
I am curious if anybody has a grasp on the scale of the currency. Because we get comparison to other non-existent countries, like pieces of currencies. And I still have
Well-
no idea, like,
And yeah, we hear
what
more
would
of that
40,000
in
be?
Wynn's chapter.
Yeah, as stated, it's more than he will ever see in his life, I think is what Tim Ben says.
More than he's
so,
ever
like-
seen, which I took as like more than he's seen in like a single sitting. But also we're dealing with the Abuke, who are notoriously like
Or
Seems like-
objectified against and like pushed aside in society. Like, is that a meager sum? Like, should they? Like, is that $100? Like, what are we talking about here?
I mean, assumption at the very least is that it is a decent amount of money, but not as much as it would have fetched otherwise. Like this is a rare illicit thing. I don't think it's going for little, right? Based on the way that we perceive value.
Mhm.
But as far as like what an actual equivalency goes, like why would we ever really be able to draw an equivalent? You know, do we ask how much a clip is?
I mean, I feel like we kind of did to a certain extent, but also we're dealing with a ton
did,
of
but we
money.
didn't get
Like,
the
we're
answer.
dealing with millions at it. Like later on in this section, we're dealing with millions of dollars, and I have no idea is that like enough to fund a small army, or is that like the yearly income of an average person? Like, whereas with Clips and with Mistborn, we were dealing with people that had no money and nothing at all, and then suddenly using it as a means of transportation was astonishing, and then eventually like just didn't think about it because it was a useless like piece of money. Like we saw that scale grow and the respect for the money grow. And this yeah.
So to that point, I guess my point was more like, if we have the comparison of 1 million to 40,000, we know that the millions are going to be way more, right? And so we know impactfully that the clan's dent on the economy is much larger than like an individual, 40,000. We know that they make up 40%-ish, 45%-ish of the economy of Janloon. So, that's a guess. But
yeah.
We'll see.
Like, how much is a cheeseburger? I guess is what I'm asking.
Cheeseburger. I'll wait for you.
Yeah. Oh, my.
I mean, again, this is
Details,
later, right? But the Espenian currency is thalers, which sounds kind of like dollars. Mm-hmm. And we did the comparison that like the tens of thousands of thalers worth of jade would be hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of Espenian. So dozens of millions to hundreds of millions. So it's at a 10, maybe like at a 0. Maybe it's like $4,000 kind of as a jumping off point.
Fair. That makes sense. And like ultimately you're right, it's not that important, but I was just wrapping my head around it, like trying to figure out what the scale was.
It's a lot or a little.
Mm-hmm.
A rip off either way, it sounds like.
A rip off either way.
Yeah. To kind of round out the chapter, of course, Tim Ben ends up getting laid on the table after getting just absolutely brutalized by Maik. Also, what a picture this draws of Maik as this intimidating, terrifying human being, going the fast way or the slow way to get the information out of him, and turning on and off the recorder in that moment was just such a crazy way to open, I don't know, I think the week.
It's also so intimate. Like, just the two of them and him just like, I mean, he doesn't even have to like tie him up or anything,
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, I'm going to break all your legs and kneecaps and sit here. I don't know.
Also, I accidentally read this chapter last week.
Ben, you weren't going to tell them.
You bastard.
And I'm really glad it didn't reveal anything. So that's what I was happiest about.
Nice.
You're supposed to keep your failings to yourself.
Hey, transparency.
No, it's okay to share. It happens.
I do have another question about this section.
Sure.
How do we think Temben's son? Or no, this was a different guy.
It's
right?
Moot's
this
son.
was Moot's son.
This is a whole new guy.
Yep.
That's later. That's totally different. I got those like
Carver.
blurred together.
Yeah, this is a whole new
because we
skis-ball.
saw Maik kill this guy, and then Moot encounters a similar fate.
All right,
similar skis balls, but different skis balls.
Mm-hmm.
One has a pierced tongue with Jade. You can't walk around with Jade. That's a death sentence.
Like, you have to hide this Jade, right? Piercing your tongue, not the worst place to hide it, but also not a great one, not the best one.
Well,
like,
then you still have an aura.
You cough.
The main thing is.
No, I just mean like people shouldn't see that. Your tongue, like
you
your
would
tongue's
still
not
be able
the
to
most
see that
invisible
for sure.
place on your body.
You should pierce your nipples.
He should have pierced his nipples 100%.
Pierce his nipples. Idiot.
So if I were in his situation, I would have gone like jade fillings on my tooth.
Mm.
And then you don't give off an aura unless you're biting your lip and making contact with your skin.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
So you can like activate it when you want to, but it's always on your person.
So you have like nerves in your teeth?
You might. I don't know how teeth work that well.
Jade also radiates a little bit of an aura, so I think you'd still be under the effect, but you would probably heighten it by, I don't know. That's an edge case that I don't know about. That's a good one for like a Reddit AMA. I'm gonna hang on to that one.
All right.
Honestly, that's a good idea. Yeah, I was like, piercing is a great idea because it's removable at the very least, and like you can just get re-pierced if you had to. You know, you could throw it into the river and survive. Tongue piercing, not a great idea.
Here's
but
maybe a cool idea. I don't know if this would work at all, but like if you could somehow melt down the jade and get it tatted onto you, I feel like that should be cool. I don't know if that. No idea if that.
Powderize it and like mix it into the ink.
And you just like got this. It's like it's just a cool shade, right?
How very D&D of you. Yeah, it's a great idea. Cool. All right, let's go into chapter 43.
New.
I feel like at this point, Crossland's already seen that bit in campaign 2 of Critical Role.
I literally passed it like 3 days ago. Anyway.
Yep.
It was fun. New White Rat. Shay returns home past midnight after yet another long day as weatherman of No Peak. She is greeted by Maik Wen, and the pair have a surprisingly intense conversation, culminating in Wen asking Shay to become a white rat for No Peak. So, number 1 of my notes, I have laughter. You dumb bitch. Y'all, lot of this, a lot of chatting. Wen's just a vessel. When's Wen gonna not acquiesce to Hilo? What's Wen up to? I wish there was more about her. Cross and I were here biting our tongues off, waiting for this.
It's a fair critique early on.
It is. No.
We'll absolutely give it to you. But yeah, I was like, Fond du Lee's not going to do you dirty. And I like had to like absolutely shut down all of my instincts to jump to the defense.
She's not going to get herself killed for being a dumb.
That's fair.
Stone Eye.
I don't think she's dumb.
Okay,
I think
Shay.
she's very smart.
That's what I was being Shay.
Oh, sorry. No, yeah, I love this development by her. I like how
Ben's new favorite character is Wen.
She was my favorite character this week for sure.
Who won the week?
Maik Wen for sure. Or Shay.
There's a
One or
bit
the
we're
other.
adding. We're going to end it. We're going to add it. Who won the week?
We used to do
sounds
that on Hellifront.
Ding, ding, ding.
Did we do it like
remember when we used to do
we
that?
did it like one time?
No, we did it every single time.
Wait, you guys have a podcast?
Wait, you guys do a podcast? Well, you
This
guys
is
sound
why
so
rereading
good.
is so fun for me because I literally do not remember.
Yeah, we did it every week.
Make Wen won the
Okay.
week. Do-do-do-do.
See, we even had that trumpet. Yeah, now you remember.
It's coming back.
The Aaron trumpet.
It's all coming back to you.
Pew, pew, pew.
But no, I love
Anyway,
this development. I love her coming to Shay and like kind of forcing the issue a little bit. And I feel like she showed some cunning here. Like there's a lot more than meets the eye. And I feel like Shay's finally like, oh, okay, there is something there. I totally misread this person, which that's one thing I enjoy about Shay is she can admit like she's wrong about stuff and she's willing to learn, which is wonderful.
And she's great at interior decorating.
Right. And then we get this great development where it's like, yeah, now we gotta get some plots of our own because the mountain is not stopping with their plots. We're just getting more and more plots from the mountain.
Plots on plots. I like that she's just chilling in the Horn's house in her robe and flip flops. Because like work from home vibes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And she flops over.
Ski ready.
Yeah.
Shooting fireball.
Yeah. Fiery whiskey.
She's got literally nothing to do. Also, because she is taking a drink, we of course take a drink on the show.
Fuck, I'm out. I chugged mine.
Way to go. You'll just have to make it up later. But I love the bit where we kind of get the duality of like moving out of apartments between these two women of whom are both connected with the household as well, that I really appreciated in the way that they both like had to leave their lives because of the family to be a part of the family. And you can't help but like kind of agree with Wen's take on the whole thing. Like, you know?
Yeah, like
she's like, we had to do the same thing.
You want, or the expectations are rough until you don't have any expectations, and then that's also rough or something. That was a direct quote.
Direct quote. Great work. Great work. We'll give you the credit for paraphrasing. Yeah.
I thought though this whole chapter made Wen look much better, and I thought it made Shay look a little worse.
Oh, for sure.
Worse?
Because we get the whole touching of ear, and we
Yeah.
see once again Shay's sort of like weirdly, just because it's in comparison to the rest of her family, but she's like weirdly superstitious and religious, whereas most of the rest of her family doesn't seem to be. And just the touching of her ear of like someone her age, and I don't. It just felt extra gross. I did not like it at all. It was a tough look. And she knows
She
better.
did it,
And she
like,
immediately knows
even
better.
She knows better.
throughout,
She
like-
admonished herself over it.
I was going to say, she
It was
recognized
unconscious.
it. Yeah, I was like,
I was thinking though, the tugging of the
ingrained
ear,
culturally.
like it'd be nice to have a physical symbol of people's prejudice. So like, you're
Your
like,
right ear is lower than your left. Yeah.
you know, I knew it.
Yeah, I guess I saw it a little differently. I understand the critique though.
And she had other like kind of snide thoughts. Like she doesn't, because she's a stone eye, because Wen's a stone eye, Shay thinks less of her. And like it comes through in multiple ways. And it's not just the tugging of the ear, it's her thinking or not even thinking of her as someone who could do any job, you know? And then her like thinking jealously about like, man, she must have a lot of time on her hands, you know? Just like all these like girl fight bitchy thoughts.
Even
and
at-
then
sorry to cut you off. But even at the end, when the weird, like, she had never noticed that without shoes on, Maik is taller than her and has more curves.
right. Yeah. It's like it's because Shay has never like looked at her or considered her, because she's a stone eye, and the, you know, the whole family line is shunned and they're all traitors and shouldn't trust the Maiks, you know. So like Shay, even though Shay does like have both thoughts at the same time, she still kind of believes all that stuff a little bit, until when like her only power here is to like show Shay through little comments that she's shrewd, she's paying attention, she like can do hard work, can fix a whole house in a week or two, you know, notices her comings and going. So I think Maik Wen did a great job with what she was given.
It's such a fun, and this is more of maybe a general commentary on Shay on the whole, but there's the old F. Scott Fitzgerald quote: "The test of first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function," that I just really adore about Shay, because she sort of embodies that as opposed to,
Wisdom, baby.
quoting that in this. Yeah. She's got that cognitive dissonance to be able to like take and hold both ideas and like kind of function and rub the friction and rub them up against each other and then come out with the better one in the moment,
I
which
still
I
like
just think is
Shay.
Generally,
so
it's good.
Oh, I'm not-
admirable.
yeah.
Just when it comes to prejudice, it's
Yeah.
like I don't need both minds.
Well,
Pick a
she
mind.
messed up. Yeah, it's
It's okay,
right.
but it's like if someone was walking on the street and they saw a black person and then crossed the street and were like, "Oh no, I shouldn't have done that." It's like it's still fucked up. That's all.
Like
yeah,
the tug in the
for
ear
sure.
thing.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm saying-
the tugging of the ear is.
I
that.
think it's fully encompassing of
Yes.
Shay.
Yeah.
I think it's
I know
like
what you're saying.
the
I was
like
just
idea
saying.
of like her not being a part of the clan. And, yeah.
Yes, it is overall a good look for her that she is both and able to process everything and be.
But you'd think Shay would be better than her siblings and her family, because she traveled abroad and lived without her Jade and was like a normal person.
Who
Like,
experienced racism.
well, then why
Yeah.
is she throwing it back?
No, that's what I'm agreeing with you.
I think it's
We're fighting.
unconscious, which I think we've agreed on. That's why Ben's so quiet this week. They're boxing on the side. They're just catfighting and slapping each other. We've edited it out for posterity's sake. That way you guys don't have to hear it at
It's
home.
these gin pineapple drinks, man.
Gin is dangerous.
Making punchy.
Here's a question: the quote, Aaron, that you highlighted, where Wen remarks about her own lack of expectations and how you begin to like butt against it and wish for those. This read through, I kind of thought that was almost a cutting remark intended for Shay, and that Shay didn't get it, because at this point I think she's still thinking so little of Wen that she wouldn't even think she would make a remark that was meant to cut Shay. I was wondering if anyone else got that impression, or if I was like in a weird mama mentality conspiracy theory hole.
About, well, like, was the cutting one more about like moving back. There was also another one about like, did you join because you wanted to be the weatherman or to help the clan? I don't know. There were like multiple ones where Wen like put pressure on Shay's conscience.
I would say I also probably gave her more of a free pass. You guys are probably right listening to you. I feel like you're making some good points, but I didn't interpret it so much like about her being a stone eye. I guess it was more about like her. For me, I thought it was like she was just more dismissive of this person overall, just because she didn't really give her the time of day. She's Hilo's girlfriend, didn't really think it was worth it to her to figure out anything about her. And I guess probably the stone eye part played into that, but I guess I didn't really get that as much. And I might be wrong there, but that's why I didn't think it was as bad. And I was thinking, yeah, she's saying some stuff like she was being pretty shitty to Maik Wen, but I thought she was like recognizing it in the moment and being like, yeah, I totally underestimated this person and that's fucked up. It's kind of how
that's what I was going to hit upon is the underestimation. I think is the biggest part of that, where it's like Wen in general has been completely, including like the way that she's been presented through us through the characters and the POVs, completely underestimated as far as capabilities go. And she shows up being one of the most whip smart characters of the whole group. All of a sudden in this chapter being like, well, what the fuck? Like I'm more than an interior designer.
Yeah.
I think it will probably.
But I do like taking fireball shots in my robe, you know?
I think the thing about her that makes everyone not notice her will make her a good white rat.
For sure. I agree. Yeah, I think she's going to be a really big chess piece. I feel like.
She's Hagen, Hefton, giant chunks of jade.
I was like, what are you trying to say? The other thing I'm curious about, have there been white rats that have dealt with foreign countries before? Or has it always been on Keikon?
Seems like a good question.
I think this is new, because I think they've very intentionally played Jade close to the vest and kept it on the island as much as possible. So this is totally new territory for white rats, I think.
Makes sense.
Certainly is interesting.
Win sense.
Whoa.
Makes sense when?
Whoa.
All right. Anything else in this chapter? You guys said it was your favorite. Why was this one of your favorite chapters of the week? Ben, why was this one of your favorites of the week?
I just liked the realization. First of all, I really like Shay. And so her growing in the moment, that was nice for me. And then I've been hoping that Maik Wen would get involved and get an opportunity. And she did. And as I've been saying, finally, we got to get some of our own schemes and plots running. And this was like we're starting to finally plot back against the mountain in some way instead of just playing it so straight. So this was just a lot of stuff that I wanted to see. That's why I enjoyed it so much.
I think within this section, we've had some conversation about how Shay is strangely more traditional than her brothers were, and certainly more than Hilo is. But there's still that like commentary on how odd it is, how Maik Wen is like putting all this effort towards this house and towards this home that she's living in. And it's kind of a shame that as soon as they get married, she's going to be moving out of it. And like, that's so close to like criticizing the traditional values of like living in a separate house than Hilo until marriage, but didn't quite get there. Yeah. It got really close though.
I think one of the things that I really appreciate about this week's reading, wow, English coming back. I think one of the things that I really appreciate about this week's reading is its kind of focus on religion as a backdrop. I think comes up more and more and more. Like it's sure some of the traditions as we understand them are borrowed from religions as we understand them in our world, but at the same time, it's nice to see that some of those things exist and how they perpetuate and like how they exist throughout society. And that's a great example of one of many, I think.
Mm-hmm. And is that religious? Is it just cultural conservatism in general? Yeah. Like, where does it come from? It's not really explicitly stated that it's religious, but it's pretty easy to assume that it is.
Yeah. My shitty diamond joke went over the radar in a great way. It's good. It's cool. Neat.
I didn't catch it or I completely cut you off and didn't hear it.
All I said, does De Beers exist after we were talking about getting engaged and married? Because they own the trade. It'd be like the KJA. Anyway, it's fine. It was a better joke in the moment. It's so bad to explain your joke afterwards that it's just like an embarrassment. I can't explain.
In that case, let's drink De Beers.
Let's drink De Beers. Indeed. We shouldn't drink to that, but we'll drink to, celebrate. All right. With that, Chapter 44, Return to the Goody 2. We return to Barrow, having fled to Little Button across the bay from Janloon, getting bored, and returning right back to the Goody 2 in Janloon within a page and a half.
That was the staycation.
It was the staycation. He was there, and he was like, I'm bored, and then he's gone, which is the inspiration for the drink, of course, of the week. Moot has been killed by the Maiks, but Barrow inspects the many boxes under the Goody 2 in the smuggling tunnel and finds a lifetime supply of shine, as well as Moot's son. And Barrow, lucky, unlucky, whatever the fuck. You keep doing this to yourself. What'd you guys think of this week?
This fucking guy.
This fucking guy. Like, how much of this is just him as a person and how much of it is like Jade fever? Are we like experiencing it what it is to devolve into Jade fever, or is he just this obsessed? Like, he reminds me of my younger brother in the most loving way possible, but like just stupidly obsessed about like just
call
really
out Kevin.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Like, he is tunnel visioned by testosterone, essentially. Like, I don't know how else to describe it.
I hope he doesn't listen to this.
He doesn't. It's fine.
Too many episodes.
Are you saying he's Johnny Bravo? What do you mean tunnel vision by testosterone?
I mean, like,
I'm invested.
His decision making is totally based on vanity and like
he is Johnny Bravo.
What's the most manly thing to do? Like, I don't know.
No surprise. I love Johnny Bravo.
Hey, pretty mama.
How you doing?
I'm sure there's a better way to describe it. I don't know the term for it.
God, that's so good. No, you're right. I love that comparison. I love that you were just in on that whole thing, because I think you're right. That's one of the issues with Barrow, right? What everyone else make, because I could talk about this man for hours.
This chapter didn't make me dislike Barrow anymore. I was just like, okay, like, I guess if you want to fuck more shit up, what else could you do?
Yeah. Well,
maybe you'll fuck it up for the other side this time.
That's what this was. It was just like par for the course for Barrow. Just bad decision.
And I'm glad
out.
he didn't shoot that 10-year-old in the face.
Oh, he really wanted to, it seemed like.
That moment, it's the most stressed I've been out reading in a long time.
Don't shoot the kid.
Like, when I read that, I was like, don't shoot the fucking kid, you kid.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
You kid?
Mm-hmm.
And
you kid?
He's such an ass when he's like, I've killed a green bone before.
I thought I was going to have to...
Nobody thought I could do it.
Yeah,
but
it's like, shut
did.
the fuck up, dude.
Like, you didn't kill him. The poison shine Jade combo that we don't know about. Heart attack did it.
Yeah, it's like you didn't even actually do it.
That. All he knows is he shot at the dude, and then next thing he knows, he's on the local news being dead.
I think he knows that he probably can take credit for killing him, but
I think he
didn't actually do it.
He thinks he did.
Well, of course, because he's delusional.
And then this lifetime supply of shine, it's like, what the fuck do you think you're going to do with it? He has no connections. He has no credibility. Like, who's going to take illicit drugs, like, you know, from a child?
What do you think he's going to do with that shine?
He's going to take it and get some Jade. And
he's going to start taking it?
I was expecting you to go back into the Shine song from last week, but, you know, that's fine.
He'll trade it for Jade.
I do just want to say, none of us imagine Barrow as a businessman, right? Like that's not the first image that comes to mind is, yes, I'm going to don a suit and tie and like immediately start like a business.
Well, what I would say about
Wherever
Barrow
the
is
fuck.
that he's not a businessman. He's a businessman.
I think he's going to try to be a businessman. He's going to get into some dumb situation where he's going to get, looks like he's going to get fucked, and then he's going to get lucky and, you know, bounce around and get out of that situation.
Who knows? Maybe sometime in the future we'll be thankful that Barrow is still around.
To come back and just fuck up again down the road.
Who knows?
Maybe he collects a bunch of other like stupid kids that are Jade addicted and like starts a new clan based off of all of this like shine that he's got.
Great idea, Barrow.
Street Kids. What was that?
Z.
Oh, the Station 11. There's like a group of renegade children like blowing people up.
Yep.
That's Barrow's group.
I like that.
There is no before.
Yeah.
What a sad show that was.
I love sad shows.
Depressingly happy.
Oh, it was good.
I loved that show. PJ recommended it to me actually before I watched it. And that's one of those rare times that happens. But every time PJ hits me with a rec, he's right. So like there's no like I have questionable recommendations from time to time, but PJ is 100% hit rate. I read the book.
I just don't hit very often.
Yeah, you don't swing. There are not many at bats. But then I read the book and I was like, oh my god, the book is so good. So I'm gonna say something, and Thomas said off air. Adaptation first, book second, always. Rule of thumb. Like, go enjoy the depth of material after the fact.
Yeah, the show can never do a book justice.
So everyone should watch the Wheel of Time show.
So now we're not watching Red Rising. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Because you've already
No,
It's too late for us.
It's impossible.
It's
They're
too
different
late for
things.
us.
They're different things.
I think it'll be a compliment, but it
You can still
will
just
be as.
enjoy them.
Yeah,
I think
enjoy
when-
things.
Also, the Dark Tower show.
The creator
for
is
the
as
record,
intimately
I'm not taking
involved.
down.
We have to look at
That's true.
Invincible. Like the Invincible show is much better
Incredible.
than the Tomet, and the Tomet is my favorite Tomet ever. So, like,
The Legend of Vox Machina is an incredible adaptation
Mhm.
in a very different medium, but
So yeah, Barrow sucks.
Barrow sucks.
In conclusion,
all my
But
homies
doesn't
hate
suck
Barrow.
anymore this week.
he still sucks though. I mean, he really doesn't have anything. He has a lifetime supply of shine. That what the fuck's he gonna do with that at this point?
Can shine get you high if you're not jaded? If you're not on Jade. It's a question I'd like to know.
Do you think it gets you high?
That's what I'm asking.
I guess what would be the point? I guess if it's just giving you
I
some
think it
kind of
just cuts the edge of Jade.
Our
thing.
guy Lon
I don't
seemed a
think
little topsy turvy. You know what I'm saying? Just feeling some rushes. I felt like a little warm.
maybe, yeah. He did say he kind of overdosed on it.
Yeah.
Let's try it.
Let's try it.
I'm not into intravascular drug use.
You gotta get a hold of Fonda, see if she has her stockpile.
Mm-hmm.
Get one needle, and then we'll share the needle the whole
The
time.
way you're supposed to do it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, right.
I call
Pretty
first.
Sure that's what Barrow would have done, you know?
Cool.
All right. I love the addition of a Barrow chapter. I'm always going to like be pro a Barrow chapter. I've also we tried very hard to get a Barrow chapter every week in the way that we broke this down.
I didn't.
And here we
I didn't know
are.
that was the thing.
I did.
So do you think
I
we'll
think it
see
makes
Barrow
sense.
one more time before the end of the book?
Is this a bet?
No, I'm just wondering. I'm just curious.
We're
I'm
so
on a
close to
podcast
the
asking
end.
questions.
I don't know.
Do you think he's going to show up in anybody else's chapters?
Well, I don't know how this book's gonna wrap up in this much. I mean, it's literally like skinnier than my finger, you know?
I think we're
Like no pages left.
There's 10 chapters left, technically, plus an interlude. So
I bet we get
11.
one more.
Oh, I bet we get him in the interlude then.
The interludes, though, are like...
well, the interludes,
No.
Yeah.
there's an epilogue. And an
Epilogue.
interlude.
This
Ooh.
fucking guy.
He does seem like an epilogue character, for sure.
The person that would seem to make the most sense for who would want this amount of shine directly would be the leader of that Espenian army. I don't think he has any connections there. So he can't go to either. Like, I think he tries to go to a minor clan, one of the minor clans. I think he tries to like dump
the stone cup
an
or the
absurd
sixth
amount of shine on them.
Yeah.
I don't know, PJ.
Okay.
I like your street rat.
Street youth.
Beep.
I don't buy that.
I
I don't buy that.
I have musical Tourette's.
I know.
I forgot what
We
I was
love
saying.
that.
Aladdin is my favorite.
We
of
always
that
get
era
comments
Disney,
on that.
So
Aladdin?
Barrow is
Stand.
Aladdin?
no,
Aladdin's a
I'm
hottie.
sorry.
Barrow sucks.
Next Devil's Cup,
sorry.
we're going to be ranking Disney movies.
I'm sorry.
From
I
the
can't let that
80s,
one
90s,
stand.
and early thousands.
Barrow is not Aladdin for the listeners
No.
out there. Sorry,
Barrow is
he's got a
Barrow's
messed
like
up face. Can't be Aladdin
bad-
automatically.
street rat.
He's like Iago or something.
yeah, he's like the parent.
He's annoying.
Do you want to kill a green bone?
Yeah.
Anyways, I like that theory, PJ. So we got to stick with it.
Which one?
Child
the
Street
street
Gang.
gang. Did I never finish my thought?
The
I think we just got
Misfit
distracted.
Misfit Toys Street Gang.
The
yeah,
Goonies.
I like that.
Evil Goonies.
The Goonies. All right. I'm down. I think that'd be kind of fun.
The Newsboys.
The Newsies.
Wait.
They will crash and
All right.
burn horribly, but I think he'll try to do something.
All right. Love that. Thomas.
Yeah.
See that chapter 45.
Chapter 45, A Shared Joke. The Council of Kakon has asked that Call Hilo, Aitmata, and their respective weathermen attend mediation in hopes of resolving the war peacefully. Though all Greenbone participants know it to be a farce, Hilo is especially anxious about the performative nature of it all. After 2 days of useless negotiations, Mate Tar brings Hilo some mysterious good news. Very interesting chapter.
This whole Council of Kakon is stressing me out.
For what
Why's
reason?
up?
Just all the tension.
Mm.
I'm waiting for like Hilo to fuck it up, or I mean, mostly that.
So the negotiation is stressing you out, not the council itself.
Hilo is
mediation.
stressing me out
Gotcha.
because
He's not very politically tactful.
and Shay is like not able to talk or do anything unless he, gives her the floor. So we're like counting on Hilo to not blow up this council meeting. And then Mata seems in this chapter to be outdoing him on the, professionalism, composure, schmoozing council members.
This is why politics is so tough.
Right.
Everybody's got an agenda.
And Hilo wants to be honest and be like, lay the truth bare. But
Can't do that.
Mata's just better at like being the snake.
Playing the game.
I love the duality between your points there as like the hype man to the main point. That was great. I just, as a listener, actively enjoyed that in the moment. I totally agree with you. I think that's one of the great things that I love about this chapter is that sort of that duality between the two. There's this person who knows expertly how to play it, and the other one who's like, I don't know how to play the game. So later we figure out that he's going to play it his way. So
Yeah, I feel like I agree with Aaron in that I was kind of on pins and needles this entire chapter just because you're expecting Hilo to just drop a piece of dynamite onto the table.
Or just blow up and be like, fuck all of you.
At any second, like something is going to go wrong there. And then, yeah, with Ait being like so in control and understanding what's required of her. And it's not that Hilo doesn't understand what's required of him. He's just incapable of presenting that piece, which isn't wrong or anything like that. It's just like, that's just who he is. He's not capable of playing this role and being fake and whatnot. He can only be himself.
And he's super young and super new, and nobody knows if he can even do the job. So like he has everything against him pretty much.
And you understand his frustration because it is just all puppet game, and like everybody knows it's a puppet game, and so it's just like
I really liked the whole like entering through security thing. First of all, like it's kind of like the Matrix when they're like taking out all their guns. You know?
Yeah.
That was my analogy that I literally had on my note card.
Nice.
Good.
And it's just like, holy shit. But then they walk in with Jade anyways. And then him saying by the time Mata gets in the room, they've already had the whole conversation.
That was the coolest part. I thought was
it's like we don't even need to talk. We know what's up.
Before she even sat down, just through their Jade auras and the stuff that they're perceiving was really cool.
There's the other side of this, and I want to put this into context because that is immediate here. The quote that hits me from this is right before she's speaking, right? Like, the tension was a tension preceding something inevitable. The air held the quality of a taut bowstring, of the blade before it falls, of the space between hammer and pin. Even the suits in the room with no ability and perception sensed it easily enough. But that like top bowstring, blade before it falls, gives this, and this is why I love this book and the series so fucking much, the political drama here is as intense as a moment of combat as like a full battle scene, especially in the way that Fonda writes it.
Maybe even more so because it's like
I was gonna say,
anticipation. You're like, fucking do it already. Start fighting.
Yeah, the whole book seems even more just like we've had like 2 bursts of action, really. Maybe 3, I guess, if you count this week with the Temben chapter. But they're very quick always, and it's like it's much more about the political maneuvering and then like what happens afterward, dealing with the fallout and like how everybody responds, and then resetting and strategizing and dealing with the emotional fallout and all of that stuff. So that's been interesting. I guess I was definitely expecting like more action-packed situation and more like momentum with it, but this first book especially, I don't know if the series changes at all, but like has been much more of like a political maneuvering game and like setting up a lot of the history and the table really for the war, I guess, that's coming later on. But that's been interesting, definitely different than what my expectation was.
Yeah, I appreciate that sentiment and that sort of take on it. I'd like to kind of go in a different direction with it, though. I feel like this sort of weight that's given to the political side of things is additional momentum for me. Like, this really amps up that sort of the velocity of the story. I don't know. I'm super into this. I really
it's just kind of like a right
turn
turn, to Ben's point, right? Like it's momentum, but it's switched directions on the hill. Like you thought it was going to roll one way, but it like preserved itself in a different. Yeah,
that's well said.
Sure.
Yeah, that is kind of definitely what I'm feeling. Like at times, like especially after last week, I was kind of just expecting everything to pop after that first chapter that we read, but then it didn't. And it's like you said, we took a right turn. And then we started exploring, like every single chapter after that has been like an exploration of this fallout and then resetting of the table, which is interesting, and I like the intrigue, and I like where it's going. But that did subvert kind of what my expectation of where it was going was.
Totally.
Getting back to
these 3 chapters are so good.
Yeah, and it is nice the way, like, I mean, you guys all touched on how in this chapter, Hilo's, you're sort of on eggshells reading, like, what's Hilo going to do? But then as he comes into his own in the next chapter, and he's like, I just got to be myself, kind of is the vibe I got. I didn't have that same eggshell. It's more anticipation instead of fear in that little change of the chapters. I thought that a different point was going to be raised earlier, so going back to the beginning of the chapter a little bit. I think this is an interesting, there's the tidbit about the royal family and how it's all performative. But it's like, it raises an interesting point about what the real role of the council is and how much power they actually have. I was wondering if anyone else had any thoughts about, like, what the role the council actually has and what the role the council perceives themselves as having.
I think the council is a legitimization of the country. It's like they need it to be able to deal with other countries and look like a grown-up, basically, because it's like they're being controlled by gangs, and everybody knows that, but they do have to have this representative that makes it look like we're all playing adults for everybody outside. I feel like it's much more for like the outside, like for all the other countries that they deal with and like trying to build their economies. Yeah. And not necessarily for running kick on.
And then there's also an interesting quote about how Hilo views the council and how they view him. And so it's like after he makes a joke about Mata keying his tar, and then he thinks, most of the people in the room, regardless of clan, regarded Hilo with a mixture of nervous respect and cloaked disdain. They didn't know what to make of the wolfish young pillar. Hilo didn't particularly care for them either. Puppets behind puppets. And it's just so interesting and telling of how Hilo thinks of them, because he's like, the weathermen, he probably thinks of, not the weathermen, the lantern men, he probably thinks of more or less as puppets of the clan. And then he knows the lantern men are paying for the loyalty of some of these council people to the various clans. So it's just like, of course he doesn't want to play this game. He knows who's pulling the strings, and it should be him in his eyes.
Puppets on puppets.
Yeah, it just speaks to the show of politics, and that's why it can be such a frustrating enterprise, especially if you follow it closely. And I think that we all have frustration with that. It's just the lack of authenticity is just difficult in politics always.
I think that's why Hilo shines, right? Yep. Is because he is authentic in authentic moments often. I want to ask, and I don't like often posing hypotheticals because I think that they can be like a waste of time, especially if we're evaluating like the context of the text. But given this situation, I'm curious how everyone thinks Lon would have reacted. Like, what would Lon have done in this situation?
Doesn't Shay tell us?
If it had spilled into war without his assassination?
Say Shay died, say the exact same circumstances effectively. Like, just pitch it. He is in the same room doing the same mediation for the same kind of thing.
I think he'd still be trying to backpedal out of full-blown war.
Sure.
I agree.
I think he'd be doing what he could, even maybe futilely, to like stop this from being an actual war.
Yeah, he's not a wartime pillar.
He would get outmaneuvered and swallowed, but he would play along with this entire game. He would try his best.
He'd go all 5 days, and
he would try his best to do it honorably and do the right thing and please everyone, but that's impossible.
But who knows, like if Shay or if the assassination of Hilo went through, even the attempt changed Lon, and he was starting to change. So maybe if someone actually had died, he would have been like, fuck this.
Yeah.
They're stealing from us. They're selling shine behind everyone's backs. Like, who knows? Maybe he would have
played the plan.
Like Shay wanted to.
Like Shay wanted to. Yeah, exactly. And it wouldn't have worked fully, but it would probably buy them more time. And I just think ultimately he's going to lose still. He's going to get outmaneuvered, and he's going to die, but he's going to die and lose and get outmaneuvered honorably and never do anything wrong in that situation. But he is going to get beat.
He's going to lose despite that.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Or like because of that.
Yeah,
to some degree.
Exactly.
Right. Cool. Just curious. More of a curiosity. Thomas, did you have an answer? I didn't mean to.
No, I don't know what circumstances would have led to this. I think if Hilo died, they lose the war pretty immediately.
I agree with you.
And if Shay was killed, I think they also lose the war pretty immediately because Hilo would have gone right to Don Ash's headquarters and gotten everybody at No Peach and himself killed in that opening battle.
And that's why like metaphoricals like this I often don't play with, but it's a curiosity, especially when it comes to the politics and how like the
he obviously would have played it better politically, but I think he just would have gotten outworked on the streets and like come back from winning the political war to find that his house was burned to the ground. Like something like that. I
think we all agree that Lon loses ultimately here versus Hilo stands a chance to some degree.
At this point, it doesn't.
Like he's not necessarily in negotiations, but in the whole thing.
Doesn't look good for No Peak.
No, right. Totally agree.
I'm just thinking of Ned Stark again. He fought honorably.
You drew that comparison immediately. I was like, you're going to be so upset.
Can't be honorable in these books.
That's why there isn't a single honorable character in the first law. Don't make it long. Cool. Chapter 46, Honest Talk. Hilo and Shay pay a visit to Sun tomorrow, discussing the ongoing mediation of the clans and the economic impact of their war, as well as contemplating the dangers of a single clan, namely the Mountain, ruling John Loon, and in turn, Kakon. After, we turn to the mediation session with Ait and the Mountain clan that Hilo dominates, unwilling to sit through couched barbs, calling her a jade thief, and presenting proof and evidence as such.
Hell yeah, brother.
Comparatively, yeah, this is the come up chapter, right? As a pair of chapters, this is the one where Hilo shines through. And I just love this idea of honest talk because it embodies who Hilo is as a person. And it's sort of the way that like Hilo immediately intuits this sort of honesty while thinking about Stone, but doesn't want to do it right away because he has this precedent of decorum that he feels like he needs to uphold. And then finally that starts to grade on him over the chapter until he erupts at the end. What'd you guys think?
Loved it.
Loved it. I don't speak bullshit either, Hilo.
Yeah, I was kind of on Shay's side with it though. Like this is something to be played when everybody knows it's like on our side knows it's going to be played. And it'd be one thing if he like played the audio recording, but to just like put it out there and say like, yeah, we got proof, didn't like it felt preemptive. It felt reactionary. And I'm kind of in Shay's camp of we had 2 days to like keep them guessing. And now they've got another couple days to like react to it.
Well, I think to start off, we're talking about the Sun tomorrow, how he was like, hey, dude, sit your ass down. I'm the pillar now. Either you're with me or you're dead, basically. And Hilo talks about how like he's sitting through Sun tomorrow's speech or whatever, and he's thinking like, I'm the one who knows how to get everyone behind me. And it's not by placating like this, like and being fake. So I think the way he...
Enmity, I think, is the word that she uses. It's not about sustaining enmity. It's about pushing.
I think the way that Hilo puts Sun Tomorrow in place is exactly what was needed, because this guy didn't think much of Hilo, didn't respect him at the funeral, and Hilo's like, either you respect me and you get on my side, or here's what's going to happen. We're all going to die, and so are you.
Yeah, it was really great.
Okay.
Yeah, this was the first time where I was like, oh, I think maybe Hilo can do this. Like, I think he just needs to lean into himself and like who he is. And if he embraces that aspect of it, and yeah, he's not the typical pillar, but he's got different qualities that are still positives, and using them to his advantage. Like people cannot talk as candidly and as authentically as he does. And he has a good handle for the situation always. He's a good reader of people, and using that to his advantage, that made me feel like, hey, if he kind of leans into this aspect of himself, like maybe he can be the leader that he needs to be for the clan. And then he's obviously got to still listen to Shay and
and that's what I was going to say.
Use her expertise.
PJ, is I think this chapter's, the way we talk about it is in 2 parts. So the first part is the Sun Tomorrow stuff, where he like wins that one. And then I think it's to be seen whether or not throwing the tape recorder on the table works in our favor or not. Because I also
think like Shay needs to understand that she's not working with Lon, and that Hilo is going to do stuff like this. So like trying to find ways where they fit together and
come to an agreement beforehand, maybe.
Yeah, and I think I can understand why she would be upset. Obviously, they had a plan and he kind of blew it up, but it's not like...
Yeah, I'd argue having a plan means they came to an agreement beforehand.
Yeah.
But it was her plan.
Fair, but
he just kind of walked in blind.
And it's her plan, like putting him in a box.
It's very Firebrandy.
Yeah, where he's not... Like, you're not using Hilo to the best of his ability at that point. You're like trying to force, a square peg into a circle.
force him to be a
You're
politician.
So like finding ways that they can fit together, I think is the way to go. So I really
This is the way.
I really enjoyed this, and I loved Hilo in this chapter. I thought he was masterful, even though he blew up the meeting. And
But it was kind of like, all right,
but it was like a really good
we
mic
all know
drop.
what's going on here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jade Thief. See you next Tuesday, Jade Thief.
Wow.
Oh, we've got so much to talk about there. Yeah. Love that, though.
Thought that you all raised excellent points, and that here's the thing with Hilo, right? He's not this prim and proper politician, so by forcing him into that box, you're making him utterly ineffective in the real world of politics. You gotta let him strut, you gotta let him do his thing and put his own stamp on the situation to have any chance of surviving.
100% agree.
Yeah. To PJ's point, I agree with you that it's like there's this predetermined thing, but at the same time, he's ceding control when he knows how he's most effective, and he's not quite used to that yet. At the same degree, like it's only been a couple of weeks that like this is a month or two, I should say, but like it hasn't been that long that this has been going on in this entire conflict, and so there's a lot of uncomfortability there, and he's still not ready to fully trust Shay's advice, which I think also makes sense for him as a character because Shay, and there's this fun distinction that happens throughout this chapter too, where there's Shay and there's the weatherman, and it's used very strategically by Fonda to lean on these different moments of like, this is my sister, this is the person that I think best represents the clan as an information like guy, like is supporting me immediately. And that's such an interesting thing to focus in on and pay attention to, is when he calls attention to the fact that Shay is the weatherman as opposed to being Shay.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's cool, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's so casual a couple of times. It comes up first in the Son Tomorrow bit, where she spouts off a bunch of facts about I think it's the 25 people that are responsible for basically most of the business, and then all the other weathermen are responsible for a very tiny portion.
Oh, yeah. He tries to be like, that. There's thousands of people. And she's like, well, there's 25.
Yeah, and she like statistically rattles it off, and he cites in that moment as said the weatherman, and that's just such a like nice touch on it. And then it comes up again later in the courtroom. There are just a couple of those moments that just feed so brilliantly. But I think to your point, PJ, it's a lack of trust, or like a lack of not trust necessarily, but their relationship has been shattered over the course of, according to Hilo, at the very least over the last 2.5 years. Of her being gone, and so there's a lot to make up for there.
And I think it is to be seen whether or not he totally fucked it up or not.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that he didn't fuck up the agreement that they had going into this, though, because we even heard that last week, where it's like on the 5th day, or in 45, on the 5th day, we're going to drop the truth bomb,
right?
Because we'll have all the evidence.
But I do empathize.
He definitely messed that up.
I empathize with Hilo because Fonda does a great job of seeing how these great fingers that he has are all dying while he's sitting in this meeting, and he just feels powerless, and he finally is like standing up for himself.
That's a good call.
That's why he has that moment of rage, which totally makes sense.
Jade Thief, and everyone's clutch their pearls.
Yeah, fucking politicians.
Yeah, there's Ait's calm temperance throughout the entire thing, and Hilo's honest talk. And this is the moment for me in the original book that it sold me on loving Hilo. For me, it's also worth pointing out, my dad has been reading this book over the last 1.5 years. And my dad is a voracious reader, of whom reads 100 to 140 books a year. And he was stuck on this one for a long time, trying to like work his way through it. And he hit chapter 44. And that's when he just could not stop, finally. And has become addicted now and through this whole thing. And this was the chapter where he said, I finally got Hilo. I finally understood who he was, because I think a lot of this is prologue to understanding the characters and to like giving us a lot of meat to go with in this world. And this is the moments where we start to see people define themselves in columns and pillars.
I would definitely agree. Like, I definitely feel like I actually have a handle on Hilo's character now, in a way that I did not for especially the first 20 or 30 chapters of the book.
Which is crazy, because you're still interested.
Yeah.
You're just like, but who is he?
Yeah.
Really?
Hilo and Wen, power couple.
One of the things that stood out to me reading in this format is obviously when I was reading this, I breezed through it because it's very good. And so the Hilo factors in way less than I thought he did in the first half of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of Shay. It's a lot of Lon.
Yeah.
Now it's just, there's no Lon left. So.
Oh, no. That was nice when PJ pretended it was a dream for a second.
Yeah, right, earlier. There's
What
the
do you mean
moment at the
pretended?
table. Yeah, fair point. There's that moment at the table where, they're recounting all these different things. They talk about the divine virtues. They swear under the name of Prince Ione III and whatever else, where they finally get to the shouting match that we've been talking about this whole time, and not really shouting match because it's mostly Hilo just recanting all of these things and talking about all these details. But he pulls out the evidence and he says, I found 2 weeds you planted in my garden, thief, and I'm going to find others. And that's just such a wonderfully brutal, that entire, I know we talked about this 2 or 3 weeks ago, PJ, but when you were like, Fonda tends to move away from things when she should stick. This entire chapter is just emphasis on sticking with it to the brutal end, of making you feel each and every one of those barbs of the speech, and making you live in the shit of what he wants to make her feel in the moment.
Made me
It's so
uncomfortable.
good.
Mommy and Daddy are
this chapter.
fighting.
I will also say I've been
Only you would think of Ida's mommy.
critical
Mada's
of
mommy.
the audiobook narrator. Some of his delivery of Hilo's barbs are just very excellent. And that is
Mhm.
one of them. He crushed it.
This was my favorite chapter for sure. This week.
It's like a gunfight and the other team doesn't know what's coming.
But I was adrenaline. I was reading. Then John was asleep on
This
the
is what you
couch.
texted me about. You're
yeah.
like,
And then
yeah.
John turned on some YouTube poker video. And I was like, oh my God, I'm reading. I was like, I have to focus. So I had to go to another room. We only have one TV.
Yeah, I thought it
Amazing.
was building at first to Hilo just completely blowing the situation up and kind of fucking everything up. But then you as he starts talking to Sun, he gains more control over that situation. And then you're like, okay, I think Hilo's got this maybe. And then he completely Sun's Sun, and then goes into the meeting and just really, flops it out on the table. Literally, and
Man, these references.
I'm
Pat Riley
having
style.
fun here.
You're really into wrestling. Man shit.
and then you're like, wow, I feel like that was pretty successful when I was really expecting things to go south.
I would have liked to know, or maybe we get to know in a reflection from Ait or somebody, but do they pick up the tape recorder and I'll sit there and listen to it? Or does Ait also storm out, or
He knows what she did.
Does she reach over and crush shit?
You didn't
with
need
her-
to know what's on the tape.
I know, but how does that evidence play out? We don't see it.
It's true. The closest we get is the moments from Shay later that are Shay is the proof now. But yeah, we don't get the full on. But that's the whole point, is Hilo at the very end of this is we are not going to meet in this room again. The next time we meet, I'm going to kill you.
Hell yeah.
Or, I don't know. She's pretty scary.
Right. Yeah, he says the next time we meet, it won't be in this room and there won't be any mediation.
Nope.
That's a pretty damning way to say that this war's still going on.
Yeah.
And like he
It's an
said,
indictment of character, too.
it was, they knew from the moment I entered the building that the mediation wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, this was theater to begin with, but what was the technical goal of this mediation? Was it to stop the war?
street war.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come to an
Yeah,
understanding.
fat chance.
Council doesn't get it. They're not jaded, They're not built for it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know about
No, they
honor.
should be
they don't know
jaded,
about
but they're not
Aisho.
jaded,
They're not thugged out.
Thugged out. Indeed.
Damn, y'all calling them
All right,
thugs.
final.
They follow Aisho. What are we talking about? Thugs. They have a strict honor code.
Right, strictly. Aisho is very strict. He totally knew that Temben was legitimately a white rat when he killed him. He sure had all the
they
evidence.
weren't
that
idiots.
he
They
needed
obviously
to
knew
make
that.
that happen. Yeah.
It was. I mean, come on. It was
just had
pretty clear.
evidence, right.
We know it.
Totally. Yep. All not driven by assumptions whatsoever. Cool. With that, this chapter ends with the phone call that comes 2 days later from Ritura, where they're going to go meet somewhere neutral and private about assurances. And Ritura, speaking on the other end of the phone, his slightly nasal voice lowered, speaking as one weatherman to another, call Jen. We aren't thugs. Choose the time and place.
Speaking of thugs.
She chooses the Temple of Divine Return.
That's why I did the thugs bit.
Thugs. That's it.
Here's the
She
thing,
hangs
though,
up the phone.
and it's
They agree to
interesting
meet.
because we did it through the weatherman's point of view here. But like we keep seeing like the two sides do heinous things to each other over and over, and then be like, "How did these monsters do such a thing?" And then do something very similar.
And then the weathermen are like, "Cool, we're good.
Well, yeah,
cool,
there is
all
that.
right."
But I meant like they're both so indignant about the thuggery of the other one.
Oh, fair point. All right.
Chapter 47. Heaven is listening. Shay goes to the Temple of Divine Return to meet with Mata, who comes with a pitch. Let and assist the mountain in killing Hilo, merge No Pete with the mountain, and take over as weatherman of the combined clans, ruling over Jade and by proxy all of Kakon, and leading the nation into the brave new era Mata has envisioned, not only for their island, but for the world. This is just a fascinating chapter. Before we get into the big picture stuff, I want to talk about the Temple of Divine Return and the penitents a little bit. There's this really cool way that Shay describes the aura of the penitents themselves, and then Mata's aura moving into it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
I was hoping it would be a discussion, but I can
Oh,
do
you
it.
said you wanted to
So
discuss
is
it? I was
yeah, like
discuss it.
us as a group.
Is this space like
Go for
built with Jade? Or does
So
it
the
just give
penitents-
off like a spiritual aura?
Aren't they
Like
all
a-
touching like a big glob of jade?
The
Is that
penitents
what it
are
is?
jaded, aren't they?
No,
The
they all let
penitents are
go of
heavily
it
jaded.
when they
They
leave.
take it on
Okay.
and off.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I was picturing them
So
like
they're
at
creating
a
an
crystal
aura.
ball.
I mean, that's kind of fair. I think that it's kind of similar. I think that it's very interesting, though, to have an almost physical manifestation of faith in like an aura drug almost, which is really weird and really unique, I think, which is why I'm really...
And then
into this
Mata's aura
idea.
just invades the entire space, poisons it.
Yeah, it's the red arrow.
She's like
red
in
spear, I think.
in Fern Gully. Hexus.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Good callback.
Can you tell my age by all my references? That was a scary guy, Hexus.
He was.
But I similarly, Thomas, I loved this. I loved the exploration. It should not go unnoticed by the listeners that like my attention is focused on like the philosophical and occasional religious explorations of texts. And so like I love this idea of a full ass religion that has monks of whom are wearing something that evokes a semi-spiritual or powerful response in people naturally. I'm trying to think of something that's very equivalent. It would be like
Arnold Palmer.
drugged incense or something like that. Okay,
It would
Arnold
be
Palmer.
like when I
But
have
like,
a sip
you know,
of
something that
Arnold
you'd
Palmer
like.
is the equivalent.
Okay, so you might feel that as a spiritual
it's like
transition, but for many
ayahuasca.
people,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, but that's on a small scale generally. But yeah, something like that.
It's
but
like
it's just like you
intense
can just go into the
acid
temple and
It's like the snake creatures with the shared hallucination.
But
I hate you
I
all.
do like how like you see the difference from Shay before and after she has Jade on, and how
Yep.
talks about it like blocks out all other senses, which then you think back to the first chapter with Lon and how restless he was with all the noise when he had his Jade on, and like thinking of that rest that you could receive as someone who wears a lot of Jade if you would just go to the temple and get kind of like face blasted by all this
Mhm.
Jade energy, that it would like, clear your mind, which is what you do when you meditate.
right. Which is like the whole point and the whole focus of like any kind of meditation like that is to like clear your mind. And so this idea of like going through all these ritual practices and this being kind of a group thing too, where it's like it's not the equivalent of a Sunday, but it kind of seems like even from our early impressions with Col Sennington and the memories of going to effectively church feels very Sunday massy. And so exposing yourself to this stuff, you know, kind of ritualistically on a day of the week is fascinating, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if anyone gets the itches from attending their religious ceremonies. Or is addicted to religion, perhaps, because they're in the presence of a Jade aura.
No. Let me tell you why.
I mean, that's just zealots, right?
Let me tell you
How
why.
dare you.
Our guy, Andon, in the chapter where he fist fights with Hilo, and he's able to use and sense Hilo's Jade, Hilo comments that that's a rare ability for a Greenbone, and that usually it's after much training. And it's so, you know, there probably are
But they might not
cases
know
where
it.
somebody
You
is
know what
like
I mean?
hypersensitive. They're in
And
like
can, like,
contact highs.
Yeah.
But Shay's not getting like contact high. It's more about like it blots out her senses, her own Jade senses. She's
right,
not like
there are so many people
buzzing
there
with more
that, yeah.
power.
If there are other half Vespenian, half Tetanese with like infamously sensitive
I don't
lines,
think it's that specific, but I understand.
I think it
I
would be.
understand. I understand where you're going.
I'm saying
for.
it's.
I
I'm
don't think
saying
it's that
I'm giving you
specific.
more credit. I'm saying it is possible. It's not definitely no.
Oh,
Like
I
said
think
at
it's-
first.
Okay, all right. I'll
Just
take
said
that, but I think
no.
it's more prevalent than you're making it out to be.
I think it's less prevalent.
Can we talk about how scary Aitmod
fair.
is?
Fucking terrifying.
I'll
Yeah.
allow it.
She's like
She's
a
just
tiny
like-
little viper.
I don't think she's. Is she tiny? She's like almost as tall as Andon, right? So she's like just a regular viper.
She's unimposing, though.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have a grand stature to her.
Until she rolls up her sleeves and you're like, your bracelets.
She just seems incredibly powerful. Like she has no problem just like revealing their entire plan and telling her what they're gonna do, because it's just like, yeah, you can join us or you can die. That's it. And I'm not
Yeah.
afraid of you one way or the other.
Her
So
being so open, and I don't think she's lying. It's like,
no, I did not get that sense at all.
it's like more scary
Yeah.
that she's not withholding.
Well said.
Mhm.
What do we think about her comments on the weaknesses of her adopted father, or the weakness of her adopted father?
She seems kind of like full of herself, and like she thinks she is the only person who can do any job. So,
She just seems like very not attached to like the traditional viewpoints, I feel like.
and I mean, think about like she was like she had no family, she's adopted, like she has no like sentimental ties to the family members that she killed. They weren't like real family members in her eyes.
she's like progressively evil.
And her adopted father, you know, the reason she was adopted was to be used and like placed as a person who would inherit power, basically. Like she never had a choice in her path. So now she's making the best of it by killing everybody and just being the most powerful.
There's an interesting Dunning-Kruger thing, I think, going on here, which is like that she believes that she's so competent, but at the same time she is. Like she defies the Dunning-Kruger effect in an interesting way that I find fascinating. Which is this perception, for those who don't know, it's this perception of like, I am this smart. And often when people think that they are that smart, they actually have like a gap of knowledge on whatever they think that they're good at or whatever. But she is so far past that point that she's surpassed that and enters into the other range of Dunning-Kruger, which is that genius side of things, where she genuinely is and can exceed her own scope of her capabilities. It's called the Bloom range, but I'm getting a little bit too, philosophical.
Yeah, no
What?
peak is fucked.
Do we believe that to be the case? She has these like sort of grand plans for world domination, it seems like. And as she is also quick to point out, Tacon, not a huge population, small island. She wants to get the world hooked on Jade and then like restrict and control it. Seems kind of like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I'm not
she
sure.
Overplaying her
It
hand.
reminds me of Barrow, but with actual like reach and intelligence.
I'm not sure the plan.
Like she is. If Barrow was in a position to actually do something,
I don't know. Barrow's a fucking idiot. I don't see that.
that's
No,
fair.
I would say she's.
She
She seems extremely competent, but let's just like I agree. I'm not sure the plan for like world domination. It's like the way
She
to go.
needs
with
minions.
things. Yeah,
It just seems like a planet get jumped.
right. Like I don't think that will go the way that she wants, but I think she'll make it a long way before that falls apart and make a ton of money and along the way and have extreme power for a period of time, but it'll probably crumble.
Yeah, I mean, governments aren't good at adapting to things. She could quite possibly pull it off in her lifetime and then have it crumble after she dies.
And she's just more ambitious than any other clan leader has been before, partly because with like Call Sennington, it was all about beating the Shatarians and they were all united against this evil enemy. But while at peace, Aitmata's been able to come up with her own grand plans of glory and how to like be the best clan leader and become the one and only clan, you know?
Right. Like there's nobody in No Peak that's like trying to like dominate the world Jade trade, you know, and like make a ton of money and stuff. Like
No, Lon would have been happy keeping things chill.
Status quo. Like she's, like I said, she's very progressive. It's just that she's just like evil at the same time. So, and power hungry and extremely ambitious. And so you get that weird witch's brew mixture together, and then you've got this.
Oh, next week we need an Aitmata witch's brew.
There you go.
There's also an interesting bit
Definitely
where,
the night Mata cocktail soon.
there's also an interesting bit where the difference between Mata and the current generation of calls, it's like it skipped a generation. And not only that, like Mata's raised by her father, who was, I think, like 12-ish years younger than Tall Sen. And so there's like a little age difference there. And then our Tall friends, they're raised by their old tyrant grandfather. So it's like, there's not that generation of No Pete who had the, like, what would it be, Gen X equivalent, where they, like, were raised under the boomers and saw, like, here are the weird issues going on we can change. They just saw, they have a very, like, different worldview, and there was no opportunity to make that kind of change that would incorporate both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's a good point.
There's so much here that I really enjoy, but I do want to highlight again, of course, no one should be shocked, but the religious overtones of this chapter, that they're basically holding this sort of clandestine meeting in a church, and it gives me just these massive Godfather vibes. This sort of like, we're untouchable right now, we're not going to kill each other under like this house of rule, but I don't care. I'm going to tell you how it is. That's just
I have a question for
big let's meet in the Italian restaurant. What's up?
That is a good, like, the overall I did it. This is just like literally a real question. Can it be an overtone if it's just like explicit?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it being, you're definitely understand. I think it's still an overtone.
Okay. It was more of
That's
a
why I think
definition question.
an overtone. Yeah. I think an overtone is something that is nigh explicit. Like I would almost say it's a synonym. It's right there. You just, if you don't know what the Godfather is, do you understand what any of that is? You don't. So it's an overtone that's evocative of that idea. If you hadn't read another piece or seen another piece of gangster literature and this was your first experience,
well, yeah,
you wouldn't
okay.
understand
So
that.
the gangster
But because
vibes are
you understand the
overtones,
trope.
but the religiosity is explicit. Right. I see.
Oh, the religiosity for sure, but it's the combination of the two. The safety in religion is something that is not explicit to, but has been founded in gangster tropes.
Thug life.
Thug life. It's a big like Daredevil theme.
It's also a big theme
consistently
of real world Greece back in the day. Alexander the Great might die. What would he say? people in the temples, they get amnesty if they can make their way in. So there'd be like these crowds trying to force their way into the temples. Everyone outside, dead. Knowledge.
Lines were no good back in Greece.
Nope.
Should have
Lines lead to
checked in
death.
online before.
Yeah.
Should have checked in.
Down at the
Checked
Disney
in on
Speed
Facebook.
Pass.
I was there. Fast pass. Yeah. Love it. Chapter 48. Reading the Clouds. Doru has been set free by Coulson through the gift of Jade to find Hilo and Shay's wishes in the interests of the No Peak clan. Together, they talk about their economic failings and the time remaining on the clock before they run out of gas in their war. To end the chapter, Hilo contemplates the call's potential legacy. All I have to start it off with is fucking Doru at it again. You know? Like...
Also,
This is the
fucking
most
Coulson.
old man shit I've ever seen in my entire life.
What's he doing?
I freaking hate old men.
Just all old
I'm
men.
curious how
just
much
fucking old
Coulson
dudes.
knows here.
I feel like they know everything.
Hmm.
Your time has passed, old man. That's all I have to say about Coulson. Done with him.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
think he
So,
knows
PJ, you
what
think he's
Doru's
playing
been
a
doing?
political game?
You both kind of asked the same
I don't
question.
think so.
Yeah.
My read.
No, he's just being a freaking nuisance and
I
just
don't
being
think
like a I told you
Coulson-
so type guy.
I don't think Coulson knew that Doru was like selling No Peak out to the mountain.
Obviously not.
But I think that Coulson thinks Doru is more competent and trustworthy than his grandchildren.
Mhm.
So I think Doru could have said anything. Like, your grandchildren are holding me hostage and they're imploding the clan. And Coulson would have been like, take my belt. His Jade belt.
I was, for that reason, I was surprised that Hilo didn't bring anything up to him and like explain, because he says you don't know what you've done, but he doesn't explain what he's done. You know?
I feel like that's kind of to me, it's not old man shouting at clouds. It's young men shouting at old man shouting at clouds, right? Like, it is this guy of whom can't convince his grandfather of anything because all he does is he keeps looking up to the sky, shouting for whatever, grasping at whatever legacy he can try to. And he doesn't know what he's done because he can't look down. He can't look at what's actually going on around him.
Yeah, but nobody's
So-
telling him what's going on around him. Like, a lot of this miscommunication would be fixed by just saying,
Lon
hey,
was.
Doru's been like a traitor to the clan.
Would he
Like,
believe
just
that?
say
He
he was
wouldn't believe
confronting
that,
him.
though.
He wouldn't believe it. He wouldn't believe it, But, like, Lon was also doing that or trying to do some semblance of that. And Hilo didn't have a relationship with him to begin with.
There's also the whole point of Doru being allowed to live and hang out with Coulson is to bring Coulson back to life, right? And so if you're like, hey, we're going to let this guy play chess with you, but he is confirmed an asshole who got Lon killed, essentially. Like, I don't know if that's going to be serving its function.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, like, Hilo does not give a fuck about this guy. He's doing this
But
because Shay wants it.
Coulson also isn't told that. He's told that he's experiencing or exhibiting like early stages of Jade overexposure. And that's why he's Jadeless. Like, he's entirely in the dark about anything that's happening politically with Doru.
Yeah. But I think that's by design, because the point is, like, if you tell him, hey, your best friend betrayed the clan, that's not going to help bring him back to life, like what Shay wants.
No, but at this point, when Doru's
Oh, you mean
gone
right.
and has killed two people or like
Right.
incapacitated two fingers,
Killed one.
I think they just,
killed one guy.
Hilo's just like, whatever, like, you got my guys killed, I don't care. I think he's just, it's not rational. It's just,
I think Hilo's like, oh my God, we're fucked. What are we going to do?
Also, I mean, it was a bad decision to leave Doru alive, and they were just like, they both knew that, and they did it anyway because they wanted to keep Coulson comfortable, and now they're like both just mad about that, you know?
Can we give Doru a little credit for somehow, without Jade?
He did have Jade. That's the whole point. Yeah,
You got the Jade.
he got
call.
the Jade.
I also
He got
had
the
that brief
Jade.
flash, and then I reread it again, and then I was like, wait.
He
was
is still
not that
like an
strong.
old dude, and these are two
Yeah.
young fingers.
I think
with
they
a
said
little
he's
bit of
pretty
Those fingers
powerful.
were also like Jadeless So they
Jadeless
couldn't get their
babies.
jade stolen from them.
Yeah.
Right.
Jadeless babies.
Yeah. So every act of mercy in this book has been punished. So,
Madness
like,
of mercy.
look out for that in the future.
No more mercy. Kill everybody.
Now that we're at war, definitely not.
I agree with PJ though. It's like when can we be like, hey, like in hindsight, it should have been like, hey, we killed Doru because he did this, and this. Sorry, old man. Your best friend is a fucking traitor.
He's just never going to believe that.
That's just what happened though. And if Shay told him, he likes Shay.
I think that reality is like dying sad, right? Because they believe that he's going to die soon.
Yeah.
And so they didn't want him to die alone, sad. They wanted to like have something to remember or grasp on or whatever that means for them in the afterlife. And that's the only reason that it makes any sense to keep Doru alive, which I agree with Shay in that respect. I disagree on every other level because Doru is a fuck and Coulson is a fuck. And we know these things. They're warriors at heart.
Find out.
We made this
In Hilo's chapters that Coulson was like beating the shit out of him a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
He never
He
beat
was-
Shay.
yeah.
He rarely beat Lon. He beat Hilo just all the fucking time.
This fucking guy.
Let's just kill him.
This freaking old man.
Take his Jade.
Well, they
Doru
did,
has
but not.
He still got some gems on his belt. He went like this. This is all you've left me with.
Flashed it.
This few pieces of Jade.
He does. He very much. He's evocative of that. There's the quote here too at the end of this where Hilo stands a few feet because he just wants to beat the shit out of his granddad, but he stops in that moment because he's not going to return that same sort of violence and injustice upon his grandfather. He says, "No one in this family could be pillar after you, could they, Grandad? Not Lon. Certainly not me. No one but the great torch of Kcon. You dragged at and questioned Lon's every step, and you laughed to see Ait Yu's daughter claim the jade off my body. Stay in this room then until you die."
I agree. So mad at him.
Yeah. Fuck that guy. New generation. Much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Out with the old, in with the new, as it were. Oh, and yet he still decides that he's going to take care of them. There's this whole call the doctor. It's the same doctor that treated Lon. He goes outside. He lights one of his last remaining Espenian brand cigarettes because he can't get them in because of the upsurge in crime and the not being able to import as many goods. What do we make of the post of this and this sort of reflection on being soft-hearted and sort of the stupidity of the decision as he reflects on what he should do in the future? What do you think how do you think Hilo will react going forward to similar things? Do you think he's going to batten down the hatches and be less kind? What do you think?
I think he should be.
Should and will are two different things.
History has shown like what he should be doing. He should be ruling with more of an iron fist. He and Lon should have both been doing that. Who gives a shit about kids? Kill the kids. Kill the old people. Like, we can't take pity on these people that normally deserve pity.
Damn, PJ.
PJ, are
It's
you running
cold.
for the
I model
Republican
shit.
2024 ticket?
Absolutely. This is my announcement that I'm running.
On
Will you
the
guys
Santa
vote for
Monica
that,
the
please?
Wikipedia page.
I'm having trouble remembering. What is it that Shay tries to talk about? And he's like, not now. And then he's ready to at the end. He's like, okay, now I'm ready. Talk about like whether if they lose, basically.
Yes. So there's a whole conversation about legacy that happens there at the end that I want to save for just a second because there is a conversation that kind of happens in the middle here, which is about the sort of economic impact of like what's going on in the position that the clan finds themselves in, right? Like we've lost out on all of these. Obviously, no one's buying real estate, so they've lost out on a big chunk of their business. Retail is up because people are buying things because they think that they have to survive.
But that's better
but
for the
other parts of
mountain.
the business are hurting. Yeah. Better for the mountain because they've got external money supplies. So we have to try to figure out a way around that or to like work around. In the middle there, she brings up kind of a point about we have to be thinking about what happens after us. And that's where this conversation about legacy comes in. And this idea that the two of them really are the last of the calls technically, there are a couple of cousins on either side that they can look at. There's Andon, of whom is the closest, but not actually blood, and would not be looked at as a blood relative because of the Espenian heritage. And that just makes it all that much more of a desperate clinging to power for them as they stare at themselves as the last of this legendary bloodline.
Bleak. Doesn't look good for No Peak.
Not right now.
Aitmata's is childless as well, and also didn't really come from the
You know what
line.
gives me
Ike
hope?
doesn't technically have like the claim. She's an adopted,
Right.
you know.
Hey, let's
So,
adopt
she's not necessarily a bloodline.
some new kids. Shay,
There we go.
Let's adopt Barrow, you know.
Hilo, and Wen.
It's like pull
no,
him
we
right
need
into the
kids
family.
that have been through the academy.
Barrow's a
please.
kid. Moot's a kid?
Do we know Aitmata's
Graduates.
like actual parentage?
I don't think so. I think we get some like loose parentage before, but I don't remember.
Might use
Is there
village is
Any chance
all we know, I think.
she's related to Barrow?
No. I think there's a chance she's related to Aiden.
Aiden.
Mm.
McInerney?
Jesus. Andon.
You've said Aiden 2 times, but we
Because
love
I
you.
know an Aiden. I don't know an Andon.
That'd be interesting.
You know Aiden.
I think she's related to Andon because she was so interested in him and knew all about his family.
Mm.
If she's related
Well-
to anyone. What I actually think is she's not.
His family was famous.
Infamous, I would say.
Cursed, some would say. Scholars have argued.
But she personally knew his parents as well. Which she says when they meet. Anyways, back to the calls. The last of the calls.
Here's what
It
they
doesn't
need to
look
do.
like they're going to be able to procreate before they die.
We got 2 more books. Bring Gerald back.
The Return of the Gerald. Jade City 2.
Electric Butler.
Why does it have to be Gerald?
Because he's hot. I don't know.
Anyone else?
Yo, it's Hami Tumashan doing, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Old, I think, right?
yeah, not that old,
Not that
but older.
older.
Yep.
He's busy. He's
Um,
Master Luttbringer, you know? He can't be. He doesn't have any time.
Do you think
Right,
we're going to
give
get
it
a
a game.
love story out of
Basically a
this?
lawyer.
With Shay?
Not this book.
No, I mean not in this rest of the series.
Mm.
Maybe with Ite.
Oh, wow.
And Shay, or just
Ooh.
Madashi,
Madashi, yeah.
and Shay. There was some tension in the
I felt it a little bit, yeah.
house of the no
There was
divine.
tension. I don't know if it was sexual tension. I think it's just
Maybe.
I can't not have tension in a room with people.
Maybe.
They're also at war with each other.
Maybe.
Yeah, right.
I
But
don't
also,
know.
Maybe Aitmata's like that tit-tot lesbian lumberjack where everyone, it's just like,
Ooh,
hold on a minute.
Yep.
So maybe
She's
Mata
on,
has that same effect.
She's like the
It's fair.
star on lesbian TikTok.
Mhm.
Have you been on lesbian TikTok?
Not lately.
I did it third hand on
Not
Instagram
recently.
several weeks later like a grown-up. Thank you.
I know, me too. I'm like 2 weeks behind whatever the TikTok trend is because it shows up in Reels. Which
It's
is
okay. They're about to
I don't
remove it from my phone. So
I got myself off that. You know, I untapped and it was hard, but I did it.
it's fine. I don't have an
I
addictive
went viral on
personality.
TikTok. I created an account and then I left to like it, and then I left. And
You're
never
like,
came
mic
back.
drop.
I never got on
Yep.
TikTok. I did get into Reels for a long time, but then I just refused to like give in to my algorithm and like start watching new videos. And so then it just feeds me the same videos constantly.
Yeah.
And then I got tired of watching it. And
That's
then
where
I was
I'm at.
like, I'm out.
All I watch is Zeph barbecue videos all the time. That's all I get in my stories, in my reels.
I
That's
still
it.
need
It's just Zeph
to
all the time.
try some Zeph barbecue.
You just have to go to California
Or
and, go to
You
LA.
can also ship food.
Alternatively, we could
And-
ship Zeph to us in the middle of the country and then make it happen.
And we'll drive
So,
there, yeah.
We'll see.
Mine is
We'll
all
fly.
whales.
Fuck you. We both have to figure it out.
My For You page, all orca whales. I hacked it. So it's just all orca whale videos.
Oh,
and
mine's
content, and
mostly
it's
you.
farm animals.
My man also.
Like 50% of what I watch is farm animals.
Nice.
But back to the city where the Jade is on.
Thank
Cross.
you.
Take
Yes,
us home to the
that
break
Jade,
of dawn.
That Jade City. the final bit here that I have about this chapter, it's not that long, is I just want to get any comments that you guys had on the like economic outlook of the gang, the clan, as it were.
Seems
Did you guys
bad.
think anything of the readout?
Yeah, no peak is fucked. That's all I got out of this group of chapters.
It just seems like they're really...
And the small clans. This also brings up the smaller clans, too.
Yeah. I thought this was a...
I'm hoping that Maik Wen is going to bring it home for our clan.
Make
Yeah,
win, make a win.
I was gonna. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, I feel like that was a good setup for the next chapter that's coming, where we're like, we need some money, okay, and then we have a plot.
And here we go. Here's how we get it.
That's like in my like Fonda Lee just will do like, here's a thing, here's a concept, here's an idea, boom, let's fucking go. And it's just,
Yeah.
we're ready, right into the next. And then there's also the little teases that it's like, I'll plant a seed here, we'll harvest it down the road. It's just like a nice little combination, a little 1-2.
I would
for you.
agree. Skillful in that way.
She holds a lot of Chekhov's guns, but she always makes sure that you forget about the dagger in her boot that's going to come out later. So
You're expecting a concealed derringer, but it's a concealed howitzer.
niche gun joke that I loved and no one else got. Pa-pow!
I got it.
I feel like we all got it.
Well, I don't know.
I feel like that.
Ben and
That's
Aaron,
pretty-
like, just
I laughed.
I was
Ben
just waiting
laughed.
for someone
Alright,
else to do the same analogy, but in a fourth way. That's what we need.
Maybe I didn't laugh because I didn't think it was funny. No, I didn't.
It could be
Oh,
not
that's fair.
funny.
I did
That's
It's
very
like
true.
a
It could be not
concealed
funny.
pea shooter and a cannon
And a bazooka.
and a bazooka.
I inferred the meaning of the joke without knowing.
also,
Let you do.
Thomas, we have a conceptual problem on the show where we do bits 4 times to make the same joke 4 times.
I know, I
So
was
we'd like to
encouraging
beat
it.
the
Oh,
horse
that's
until
what-
it. Yeah, right. Okay, just so it's clear. You know,
It's a bit,
Over
Thomas.
explaining.
it's a bit.
Oh,
Do I need to explain my joke from earlier? Do I need to go back to?
Please don't.
I'm not going to.
All right, guys, let's be serious. Let's really get.
All right,
Are we
chapter
serious?
49.
Tighten down
Wait a
the
minute.
hatches.
We're on 49, I think. Unless there's
Batten,
any.
We got one left.
Batten down.
You do
Button down the
Button.
hitches.
Little button down the hatches.
Chapter 49, Overture to Adamant Capita. Maik Wen makes a trip to the Espenian embassy on Human Island on behalf of Shay. She delivers to them a significant amount of Jade. Pick up. She delivers to the Espenian government a significant amount of Jade and opens negotiations between No Peak and the Espenians. So first and foremost, before we get into the serious stuff here, let me just say, very happy for all of us Americans here, all the Americans out there listening. We have beat the Espenian allegations. The audiobook narrator, he gives them a sort of Lawrence of Arabia type British accent. So just like a truly epic win for us, truly blessed and thankful for all of us that we have beat the allegations.
I mean, this is an assembly, or this is an embassy, though, right? Like, it's not necessarily Hispanians that are working at the embassy. It
The
could be
Espenian
natives.
military.
Yeah, complaint. Okay, yep. I'm just trying to keep the doors open as much as
I'm not.
possible.
I'm just trying to beat allegations when I can. If I'm wrong, I'll be wrong. Even though I read it, but I could be wrong. I don't remember
So
everything.
the Hispanians are dirty British, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Do I bring in the meta commentary that Fonda Lee said about the Espenians at this point? Do we
know.
do that?
Yes.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I might hold until the next book. I'm gonna let your assumptions fly. Poop.
Oh, man.
Um,
We gotta wrap this one. We're
I
tired.
shit myself right there.
We're
but
sleepy TM.
Maik Wen, she's a little Tom Cruise. She's a little Mission Impossible.
Mm. All she needed was a mask with a different face.
Or like a rope that stops right before you hit the bottom.
Andrew, insert the theme there. Come on, you can do it. You'll get it.
After the theme has been inserted, let me say I would review it as good, and thus this is fair use. Also parody, I think.
It's definitely parody.
Legal on that.
7 out of 10.
we know a couple things. Here's one of them. Shay has clearly taken Wen up on her offer, right? Seems like Wen is a white rat at this point. And this seems like a pretty serious mission. As PJ, I think, earlier alluded to, this is the first time we know of sort of, I'm trying to think how to phrase this,
foreign?
like sustained, like getting the foreign geopolitical stuff going on. Although the Mountain has been dabbling with it, we don't know the exact makeup.
That seems like above board, not the stone ice.
Yeah.
Right. This seems like the first time No Peak has dabbled in this at all, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. That's what I was
and Shay's obviously going against Hilo by doing this, so I sense some drama in our future.
Yeah, I was worried about that too. It was like this
some inner family turmoil.
This is eventually going to be a problem, but hopefully by that point, Maik Wen's made a bunch of hay, and like shown off how good she is, and by the time that Hilo figures out what's going on, maybe they can be like, but look at this. All this money.
Well, that'll only work if Maik Wen doesn't get murdered.
Yeah, that's true. I hope she does not.
That's one thing that I actually forgot to bring up last chapter was the weatherman reads the clouds, right? And that was sort of the excuse for the information that Shay had kind of illicitly in the moment with Hilo. And this feels like another moment where Shay could lean on that phraseology of like, I'm playing many cards. It's better if you don't know what's going on. Which just that also like tangential, like the card I'm playing is not only your closest confidant, but it's your fiance. Just brutal.
The sister of the horn, sister of the pillarman. Or no, not pillarman.
Yeah,
he's the pillarman.
The horn
the new
pillarman.
Horn and
He's the
pillarman.
pillarman.
You're right. Yep.
Okay.
The makes are horn and pillarman. Yep.
The new
Yeah.
pillarman. New and
Right.
improved.
Not the wound pillarman.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of wound, there was another sentence where I was like, I don't like it.
First of all,
when it's like, he can do no wrong.
that's not what was
How are
said.
you
Fonda
good at
keeps,
mathematics? What do we...
Fonda keeps dropping in little breadcrumbs like, he's amazing. Wound never messes up.
What
Which
can't
means
this man do?
he's a double agent. No.
We'll see.
I'm with
Sure.
you.
Thank you. Oh, I got one.
He was with you last week.
Okay, thanks, PJ.
I don't feel like I need to even, defend my man Wound against these baseless allegations.
Puppy dog wound.
And we love that about you, Ben. We love that you don't have to show up to the plate. You can just let the ball fly.
Speaking of inner family
So
turmoil, PJ, I'll let you go. I just wanted to get off my line reading.
we know Hilo is super emotional and not necessarily the most like logical, level-headed person, but we also know that like he smiles at that comment that Cross brought up about the weatherman reading the clouds. There's going to be a huge sort of double standard glaringly when he finds out what Maik Wen's been doing in this capacity. Like he's not going to go for it, even though he's like totally on board with Shay doing her own thing and like having her own means of information gathering. This isn't going to be cool with him.
Yep, I agree.
I am hoping for different, but you're probably right. I feel like I'm hoping for different.
I don't feel like you're wrong to hope. But
He's going to be like, how dare you disobey me, woman?
I feel like he's like he's reasonable enough that if they can show the positive benefits, and that
But
she's
he's going to be like, you can't do it anymore, though, because I don't want you to
Right.
die.
and that she's fully capable, then maybe he'll be okay with it. But yeah, then I do agree that he would probably still shut her down regardless.
Well, speaking of inner family turmoil, there's an interesting bit in this chapter where Wen mentions that she had always thought of Shay as remote and unfriendly. And I just think it's nice to see, like, obviously these women had to have some interaction beyond what we've seen. So it's just like, Interesting to see like the little inner workings of things.
Yeah, this was like, to me, like that's kind of what I was speaking to earlier on the Shay chapters. Felt like two people who didn't take the time to like get to know each other at all, and for whatever reason, it's just like they just had preconceived notions and stuck to those. And then as they're like learning that the other person is a human being, has some layers to them, they're like, oh, this person's not too bad. Not as bad as I thought. It's just like natural judging a book by its cover type stuff.
And then Wen has a thought, which I don't think at all, about like how Shay could just like leave and like save herself, basically go back to Espenia.
That was an interesting one.
And I'm like, she would never. How dare you think that? Because like
she did, could she?
Shay like seems fully invested now, and I don't think she could. I mean, she declined the job, got rid of her apartment. Like she clearly was like jumped in both feet. Like
I don't
we
think she
wanted
will
her
either.
to.
But more,
And she put all her Jade back on. It would suck to take it all off again.
There's a quote that feels relevant to bring up now, but it's from a previous chapter of Shay's perspective when she first meets with Maik Wen, saying something along the lines of two women that meet each other and don't immediately forge a friendship are damned to like be irresolvable enemies. And I think that it's less important between Shay and Maik Wen and more important between Shay and Aitmata.
Interesting.
I think that's where that quote is going to be the most important.
They're beyond agreement now, especially when Ait's like, she calls her like a silly young girl or something. Those aren't the words, but she dismisses her as being young and naive.
Mm-hmm. While extending like a truce agreement, though, like a side agreement for Shay specifically, like she had the opportunity to usurp her brother and join Aitmata as weatherman of the Kakon tribe, essentially.
Right, but then when Shay refuses, she's like, "You'll regret this." Basically, you're a naive young girl, you know. And Aitmata sees herself as just willing to like do the necessary thing, and she's not worried about honor or the gods. Yeah, so I think I don't know. It is kind of sexist to be like two powerful women can't exist in the same vicinity. Like, what about all these other men?
Yeah, it happens with it happens both ways for sure.
Just to your point, Aaron, though, it's kind of hard for multiple really important and powerful men to exist in their same spheres in this book as well. Like,
right.
They're consuming each other too.
And this thought again came from Shay. It's like she's having all these like very traditional thoughts that I'm sure have been like ingrained in her. So I don't fault her that she, they keep coming up. But
I think this was a quote from her mother or something, if I remember correctly.
The one you mentioned?
Yeah.
I think it just comes to her unbidden. I have the exact quote up. She thought, two strong-minded women in a man's world, if they do not quickly become allies, are destined to become incurable rivals. And then it's going around Hilo with something blah, blah, blah. So there's no reference of it coming from anyone else. It does seem like something her mom would say, though.
Yeah.
Our friend Ivana mentioned that it was a very mother-in-law type of mindset.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
Can't you girls just be nice young ladies? No need for power. Go interior decorate.
Go interior decorate. I don't know why that struck me.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. As far as the interior decoration goes, but also just that quote and sort of the brutality of that, like, either we're allies or we'll never be friends it's completely unfamiliar to me as a person. I don't know if that's something. I think Fonda is very pointed in her language in that moment, saying that it's kind of reserved for that sort of a relationship.
All right, just cool. Back to chapter 49. Unfortunate for the chapter, constantly derailed. So throughout this section and since the war began in general, we see all these like whisperings of the geopolitical implications of the quote unquote street war going on. And now we finally see them. We see like the Ispenians kind of explicitly say that they were, or think that they were weighing the possibility of getting directly involved in the country.
Yeah, they had like plans to take the mines.
Or they're like, if they're like, we still will do it if we need to.
Right. That was interesting.
And I mean, that's information that they're willing to share to somebody that they don't know at all. Like, imagine what kind of plans they actually have laid out and how detailed they must be in order for that amount of information to be like fine to just say to somebody.
I don't think they said it.
I don't think they say it to.
Yeah. It's just from his perspective, so I think we just kind of see that.
Oh, it's in his perspective.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I did say at first, and then
yeah.
They need to gain ground in the British Empire. They need to conquer the island. Pay taxes.
They just can't quit these Ispenians, though, huh?
Ben, thank you. I was going to bring that up. So this is like another unique thing that only Shay could have pulled off because she has that history with them. She has that code word that they could drop to like let them know, hey, you can trust us.
Like, hey, I used to be a spy for you. Remember how cool that was?
By the way, is Gerald there or?
Did you give me his phone number or
he break up with me? But
is he available? I need a kid. He seemed okay.
We need an heir.
Also, a very colonizer kind of sentence in this from our guy Delier. I don't know if he is our guy, but I'm sleepy, so I'm willing to just pour it out. I guess throw it around willy nilly. So not our guy Delier, anti guy. He says. The woman's watchful gaze and the white powder on her face made her seem even more coy and aloof than the usual Chetanese female. Very colonial line.
Yeah, that felt gross.
Yeah.
Coy and aloof. Could be racist.
Nothing I despise more than a dude referring to women as females.
That too.
Just... My girlfriend watches a lot of dating shows, and there's just a bunch of douchebags on there that will just be like, these females. And I'm just like, it is just automatic red flag.
Red flag is maniacs. But
you're so right.
They're
don't trust anyone.
They're impressed with her big rocks.
She does.
She drops them on the table like you wanted.
I was kind of wondering what the plan was to getting more rocks to Hispania, because I can't keep like sending people out with urns, obviously. So I wonder how they're going to set up the smuggling op. And
apparently, Hispania can take over the mines. Why don't they just send their drones in and they can fly them out?
I don't think we're in drone territory now.
Who knows? We don't know what territory we're in.
We have fax machines.
We don't even have
cell phones.
I'm just saying.
Who knows? Maybe they invented drones before cell phones.
You don't know the order of operation.
People can be drones.
Hughes would agree with you, PJ. Good work.
And they clearly, if they have the manpower to take over Kakon's most valuable thing on the entire island.
Well, they can try, certainly. But are they going to be able to do that? I don't know about that.
Create a trade line.
Yeah, I was just wondering how they're going to do it. That's all. I was just curious.
Maybe Maik Wen will figure it out.
I hope so.
I'm just trying to figure it out. All right.
That was really all I had. I feel like this is like a pretty action-oriented chapter, so it's like there's not a lot to parse.
Right. No, this is a very like downscope on more of the future.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my final question to cap off this chapter would be: do you think that we'll see this resolve in this book or next book, or in the future? I guess.
What specifically resolve?
The sort of Hispanian relationship via Wen.
I think this book's going to end.
I think we'll see an immediate... Sorry, continue.
My apologies, sir. I think this book will end on a cliffhanger, and this is we probably don't learn much more. about the Espinians.
I think we see mobilization. We see the next step. We don't see the actual plan come to fruition or play out. Like we see the initial step that the Espinians take, but we don't know the reason behind it or the overall plan.
Okay.
I'm going to go a little different route here. I feel like I'm feeling a time jump coming on, like maybe like a month or two down the road. And we've got the Espinian pipelines set up. And now we've got some money flowing. And
Underground Barrow pipelines.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with it.
Barrow's got his clan.
Barrow's got his child gang all hooked on shine.
Those child gangs. Got to give it some time to flourish, you know. Make it happen. Newsies suddenly. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to leave this week. I want to ask for any closing thoughts, but I do think we've pitched this throughout the episode, so I want to hear from everyone. Who won the week? Give us your sentence on who won and why.
I think
Maik Wen.
I think Hilo won.
Damn.
I figured everybody's going to say Hilo.
I knew you were going to say Maik Wen, so I wanted to go against you.
So Hilo from Aaron.
Okay.
PJ?
I think Hilo won because he showed a lot of tact in his own way, getting Son Tomorrow on his side, and then him taking ownership of the pillar role finally in his own way.
Love that. PJ, why'd you think Maik Wen won?
Because she's actually like wheeling and dealing and showing her like strengths and being an asset. She's going behind the back of her fiance, but she's forging relationships with Shay and with like high-ranking military officials of foreign governments. Like she's doing crazy shit for a Stone Eye. For anybody, but especially for somebody who's kind of looked down upon within the culture.
I would agree, Maik, as well. I think losing Toru is a tough one for Hilo. So
that was Shay's fault.
Yeah.
It's kind of both their fault. But yeah, I like Maik Wen taking control of her, just getting involved. I love that. I was happy for her. So she won the week for me.
Thomas, who do you think won the week?
Also Wen. You just stuck out to me pretty starkly compared to everybody else this week.
Interesting. I definitely don't agree with anyone's takes on any of the things, but I think I'm actually a Shay stan in the moment for turning against a lot of prejudices. I think Shay won the week in her own right, because I think that she stood against a lot of her internal prejudices and also stood up another woman and did a lot of work to actively support that, while also admitting to failings and adjusting on the fly to other people's decisions, including Hilo and otherwise. And I think that
personal
is
growth
for sure. Yeah, right. Yeah. Compared to where she was, it's a stretch.
She didn't murder her brother.
True, and previously
she felt bad about being prejudiced. So that's a win. A win's a win.
Win. We love that. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this week. We don't have any bets to pay off or anything like that. So next week is our final episode of Jade City, where we'll be reading chapters 50 through the end. If you're listening to this the week that this comes out, we're actually doing this live inside of the Patreon. So if you join the Patreon, you can join us in the Discord and watch the episode live if you want to see the live recording on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern as our start time. So we'll see you there. But we're going to be talking about chapters 50 through the end. So that's where we'll leave you for this week.
Thank you, as ever, to our producers, Tim and Andrew, for helping us keep the show going. You can check out links in the show notes where you can find our schedule, our Patreon, our previous episodes, our websites, our social media accounts, all in one very easy, convenient location, even though that's a horrible mouthful of things that are all in one spot.
Yes, that horrible mouthful. Words Whiskey Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, wordsandwhiskey.gmail.com, patreon.com/words and whiskey, and our t-shirts are presently on TeePublic. Check out those links. Also,
don't forget to rate and review us 5 stars only. If you don't give us 5 stars only, then Motto will come scare the shit out of you.
At your place of worship.
Or just anywhere you think you're comfortable. A dark cloud will descend and she'll make you piss your pants.
Yep, absolutely.
Embarrassing.
All right, so how embarrassing with a little bit of menace. So thank you so much for the support. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, I am going to plug my friend's stuff. Oh. You can find Thomas and his podcast at High Key Obsessed. I don't know your handles.
They're plug also in the show notes.
High Key Obsessed is close enough, honestly. It's I think High Key Obsessed podcast on Instagram, and that's all I really use at this point.
Sounds good. And we have no other podcast to plug. I'm just kidding. Ben and Aaron, where can we find your stuff?
HowlerPod, everywhere that you get your social meds.
Anywhere and everywhere. HowlerPod. HOW.
LER. POD. Everything everywhere all at once. Great movie.
Red Dope.